We are Brightside Home Theater.
Hey, home theater nerds, welcome to the Brightside Home Theater Podcast. The home theater podcast, it's all about the experiences, the sights,
the sounds,
the scenes.
There we go. So we were in the green room, we were just talking about the open, boys, and I just got to hear it again. You guys don't get to hear it right now. I'm working on that, but what were you saying? It sounds a little what?
A bit like demonic possession.
So should we play it backwards?
Yeah. I said I'm worried.
No.
I'm worried about my head starting to spin around when.
Yeah.
When,
so John, do you want to be the John? Do you want to be the old priest or the young priest?
Well, that's a tough one. Maybe the old one, right? Because he gets put out of his misery.
I like it though, because I mean we're getting more and more people in there, and by the time people, well, when they hear this one, we'll have Omar's been added. I'm up to date on everybody in there. Can you hear different people? I can. I know what all the different people are. But like, because I'm the one that put it together, so it's a little bit easier. But it's pretty cool. I like it. I gotta mess with the volume on it because it's getting damn loud. I'm like, oh my god. But I like.
The good news is I know mine. I'm the only English one, so it's all good. I know mine.
Well, what Greg said that he's the one that you can hear when they say theater, and he goes theater. Like you can really hear it. And it was so funny. He's like home theater, and I was like, whoa! So people are adding their little spins on it to try and stand out.
Now we got a bunch of thespians.
Exactly.
Sorry, thespians. All right, fine. Sorry, I think I misheard. That's fine.
Yeah.
I haven't had any of those.
So when did they come in?
Yeah. Different show.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right, back to the seriousness. All right, how are you guys doing?
Good.
Doing real good.
Yeah?
Really good. Yeah, really good. Can we just say though, Deidre, now that we're live, as it were, that well done to John for risking his life and limb to be joining us this evening. Sorry, evening, my time, afternoon, your time.
Well, yeah, it's almost evening here, pretty much. Yeah. So yeah,
I'm chained down to the desk, just to make sure.
He's got a cinder block on his feet.
Yep.
And it's not a mob story. It's like he's just for protection.
Yeah. No, that's it. Yeah. So at any point, some serious visual effects might suddenly come into John's feed, and it'll be really clever.
I'm not gonna lie. I got my fingers crossed. I'm hoping.
Oh, charming.
I was like, anything for ratings.
Might signal the end of my appearances on the show, but it'll be great. It'll be great for ratings.
If you're gonna go big.
Right.
Yeah. Well, unless it really is demonic possession, John, and then you might be able to appear in other sort of types of formats.
Maybe you're right. Maybe so.
We'll have the candles ready for next week. The Ouija board.
I got my headline all set. My show title if it happens.
Oh yeah.
I'll wait for it.
I don't think I can say it. Not live.
I'm thinking of a couple too, and they're not really fit
John and I.
Show.
Yeah, we can't do that. No, can't do that. Not good. Nope.
No, man.
Good stuff.
And can I also very briefly then take over the airwaves very shortly, just briefly, because today, rather unusually, I managed to listen to all of the Takeover Tuesday podcast the day it came out.
Look at you.
With Omar.
Well, you do get a head start on the rest of the world. Or it comes out at midnight our time, which is 5 a.m. your time. So yeah.
Yeah. So but normally I wouldn't have time to listen to the whole thing, which I did today. Now the thing is with Twitter, just very briefly, with Twitter, of course, we engage with people all the time, and very rarely would you meet them face to face or even speak to them. Generally, it's obviously messages because that's Twitter, isn't it? Right. And so whenever that happens, you kind of build up in your mind when you converse with someone via Twitter, you build up in your own mind what you think that person will be like if you were to ever sort of meet them or hear them.
Yeah.
And you think about kind of how their voice would sound, what sort of personality they'd be in real life. Yeah. And it's rare that you encounter someone who is exactly as you hoped they would be.
Yeah.
Generally, they're the opposite. But can I say from the...
What are you looking
from
at
the,
me
the
for?
taker, yeah, well, no, you're good as God. Yeah, you're the other exception to the rule. And John,
right.
to be fair.
Nice save.
But I have to say, from that podcast, Omar sounds brilliant and a really, really nice guy. And he sounds exactly as I hoped he would be, and exactly as I thought he might be. And what a cool guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really good to hear from him, and really nice to hear about kind of his home theater journey. And I'm not just saying that because he was really nice about me for the whole 2 hours, mainly because he's just
you know what he kept
he
doing?
sounds like a really good guy.
It made me feel so much better. He kept calling you George, which I used to do.
He did say George.
He did
say George.
I used to do it all
a couple of times.
When I first quote met you right through Twitter, and you'd be like, oh, and I'm like, my buddy George, Steve. George.
Happens all the time.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what happens when you have 2 first names.
Yeah, but it's bad is when I've got a client that I've represented for years. Many. I've got a client that has over 200 previous convictions for theft. Right, and she still
convictions. You're not doing your job.
No, I think I'm doing my job quite well. Otherwise, she wouldn't be out to commit 200.
Right. That's true. Okay.
She keeps getting off, so.
Yeah, well, there you go. And she still occasionally will call me George, and that's when I get offended.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I've been representing her for 20 years, and she still calls me that. But yeah, no, he did. But no, he sounds like such a cool guy.
God.
And, it was a really, really fun podcast. Actually, it flew by that couple of hours.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really cool, and I'm really glad he's as nice a guy as he seems. So, yeah, great news. I really enjoyed that podcast.
One of the things I really liked about that podcast was, from hearing the whole thing, it was about home theater, but that was what would you say, like 20% of it, right? It was
probably, yeah.
And I liked that, and I said that in the podcast with him. It's like I liked the idea of we are more than just our home theaters and stuff, and whatever a listener wants to talk about, wherever the conversation takes us, that's what Takeover Tuesday's for. That's why it truly is named Takeover Tuesday. It's like it's your show. Come on the show, and we'll talk about whatever you want. And Omar was hesitant. We've been talking about it for a while, and of course he was hesitant, and like almost every single person that's been on, but eventually all right, yeah, it's so he came on and it was great. Just like all the listeners that have come on, at the end, they're like, wow, that flew by. Right. And it's we know the 3 of us sit here and our shows go 2.5, 3 hours. And you're like, holy crap. And that's at the end, we're like, all right, we got to get through this one because we all have to either get to bed, get to doing whatever. You just can't sit here forever. But yeah, that was an awesome conversation. Omar and I ended up talking for another half hour after that too. Half hour, 40 minutes.
Yeah, he's such an interesting guy as well. So it's nice talking to someone who who is into home theater and home cinema, but also just such an interesting chap with, obviously with not just that incident, but just as a person, man. He just seemed like a really, really nice guy, and the kind of guy you'd sit in a pub with, and you'd start drinking, and you'd be there 10 hours later, or on the floor by then, if you know who me. But still, sort of talking, slurring. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hey, we know you've been there. We remember your texts from Christmas.
Yes.
That was New Year's.
New Year's.
That was New Year's. That was New Year's. I don't remember those
something
texts.
or other.
Yeah, I don't even know. I still have it though. I can look.
I don't remember. I literally don't remember. So
I had to put it through iTranslate.
Right.
Yeah, English to English.
And it said, it came back and said, search me.
DJ to English.
Yeah, I thought it was Dutch or something.
Huttese.
No.
Yeah.
I saw those the next morning and I was like, well, at least I wasn't rude.
Well, quite.
Yeah. I was like, okay. But, all right. But yeah, anybody interested in being on Takeover Tuesday, just email me at dj@brightsidehometheater.com. You can email Steve at brightsidehometheater.com.
Not George.
Or
not George.
Steve or John at brightsidehometheater.com. We all have our own home theater, Brightside Home Theater addresses. So
don't recommend that. Don't email me.
Have you gotten any? Have you found, or did you lose that again?
I told you 4 months ago that I lost my password and I needed a reset.
Again?
And this is the first time.
No, you got in there
a while back.
No.
And then I text. Well,
Steve,
I'm not gonna.
Right?
I texted
Steve,
you.
Am I right?
Yes, I got in it. I'm not denying
okay.
it.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't
like-
in there initially.
And then
it's the
I
first
got
time
it-
he's been locked out. isn't
And
it?
then the next
Yeah.
time I tried to
Yeah.
go in, my password didn't work, and it locked me out. And I said, I texted you.
Let's go back.
And I said, I need
didn't
access
record
to
the green
this.
room, but we have it on in the green room stream where he was saying he's the tech guy too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. See, well, not to go into too much of it, I don't remember any passwords. I have an app. Like I use
Right.
Dashlane. It does all my passwords
Right.
for me. For whatever reason, it didn't. It just kept saying this is not the correct password, and it locked it out. And it needs an administrator to open it back up. But yeah, I don't
think,
know I don't do passwords at all. Everything's managed by an app. You know,
I think it's your fault, John, for choosing
Must be.
malignant is great
That's
as
right.
your password. If you will do
Exactly.
that, then things are going to happen.
I love smile 22
X is
exclamation
cool.
point. Yeah.
I think we've just
I'm
to be
getting- I'm
fair, that's
being-
probably
I'm
the
quiet.
nuclear codes.
We're talking
Right.
horror. I'm quiet.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to what we got at the back of the store. The milk's at the back of the store. John, what are we going to be experiencing through you this week?
Through me. Well, once again, the completed Game of Thrones journey. House of the Dragon. I watched that.
The entire season?
Yep.
Wow.
Told you I would.
Cool.
I-
Wow.
I watched. I went to the theater. I saw a man called Otto.
Oh, cool.
Oh, how is he? Is he all right?
He's
Oh,
great.
sorry, that's the name
Yeah.
of the film. Sorry,
Yeah.
you said sorry.
Yeah,
He was the ticket
Otto
taker.
Otto was well, and the movie was good too.
Yeah.
And then I just tacked on to the end because I also watched The Last of Us episode 2, and since you're
Yeah.
both going to be talking about
We'll
it,
all be
I
talking
figured
about
I will
that.
talk
Yep.
about it too.
All right.
Yeah, that's it.
Steve, what are we experiencing through you?
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first one is the one that we are going to talk about,
Yeah.
which is Halloween Ends in
wait.
4K and Atmos. I think we need to put that in capital letters, Atmos, for the reasons. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Will we get to that?
No.
So then, as an amuse-bouche after that, we then had Train to Busan in 4K on Atmos. And you haven't seen the menu, Deej. When you see the menu, you'll get that. We got Lightyear in 4K and Atmos as well. Then the menu in 4K and Atmos on Disney Plus, and then of course ending with The Last of Us Part 2 or Episode 2.
Alright.
Sorry.
Cool. And people living vicariously through me. The Batman, Star Trek, the motion picture, the director's cut with Atmos. That should also be in capitals. I can't wait to talk to John about that one. Have you seen that one, John? That cut?
Not in Atmos. No,
Ooh.
not in 4K and Atmos.
I can't wait to tell you about it then. Okay.
Yeah.
I finished Wednesday on Netflix. Did I even talk about that one last week? Or
I didn't even know you started it. No,
yeah.
I didn't even know you started
Oh
it.
man.
Mm.
You know when you get to a show and like I thought it would be good. You told me it was excellent, and then when it's over, you get that feeling like I'll never get into a show like this again. And of course you do. It's like the show that I was watching
You do,
before
but yeah,
this.
I was really upset when that was over.
Yeah, it
know?
really was. It was such a good show. And then, of course, The Last of Us, by contrast, not that it's not good, it's fantastic, but for a different reason, and we'll get into all of that later on. Episode 2 was, I can't wait. We can't name the show 2 weeks in a row, The Last of Us.
No, we can't.
But, yeah,
That'll give us 9 weeks worth.
Well, yeah, otherwise
Well, we're
it'll
going to
just be
do
the
it
name
every
of the
week
show.
because this show
Yeah, it'll be
is
the name
that
of the
good.
show every week. Yeah.
It is that good. But yeah, so that's where we are right now. Those are the experiences at the back of the store. We got a couple of fun tweaks before we get to that, let's get to this. Let's get to charity for the month. We're going to be doing this month 50% of all. Oh, that's not the right one. Where did it go? 50% of all money this week will be going to the Scholastic Sports Zone Foundation. You can go to scholasticsportszonefoundation.org. AED Save Lives, donate today. It says it right there. So if you don't want to give directly to us, you can give directly to them. And then 100% of your money will go to them. But 50% of everything we have coming in this month will be going to that. And where did my notes go? we have who wants to read out this week's new patron? One of you.
The
Yeah, do
new
you wanna do it,
patron
John?
or the
new
yeah,
one.
So our new patron is Mr. AA.
Yeah.
Abe Adarsh, if I
Yeah.
can infer from the email. But Mr. AA became a new patron, so thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. AA.
That's 2 weeks in a row.
Yep.
Look at us. Look at that. If we did that for
Moving
a
on
year,
up.
we'd have 52 new patrons. See how I did that math
Look
quick?
at that.
See that?
I did, yeah.
Franklin math right there.
Yeah.
John's privileged to have that too.
I am, yes. Proud graduate.
Right, yeah. Oh boy. Okay.
They really
it-
kicked me out more than graduated
Yeah,
me, but
yeah, it was-
you know, it was
There's- most of us in the art department were like, just
didn't want us around anymore. Yeah.
Just go.
So,
All right. And our patron of the week, Steve?
Right. Okay. Oh yes, this is Andrew Hegarty, who has been a patron for 4 months.
4
So
months.
yeah, well done, Andrew. Have we heard from him? Has he been in touch? Have we had any contact from Andrew?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I got a funny one for you. I got an email the other day from a listener. And the email said John Charles. And I was like, ooh, I thought it was a new listener, right? So I emailed him back and we talked about Takeover Tuesday. And then he emailed. Now that's what came up on my headline, John Charles. And I'm like, oh, great, new listener. Always great to hear from a new listener. And he's laughing right now. And it turns out he goes, yeah, I'd love to come back on and bring my brother. I was like, oh, crap. And I was like, I'm an idiot. I didn't recognize it. It was John Mensor, who's WV Brew, he has different names and everywhere he pops up on. I'm like, so apparently, for all I know, I'm like, we have one listener with just a crap load of names. He's really fond of the show. But yeah, so I have no idea. I'm having a hard time keeping track. I know we have a few Andrews. So I'm sorry.
Well,
I apologize.
We will say thank you to Andrew anyway for 4
Yes.
months so far. And you know, if you want to get in touch, DJ obviously told you how to do it, and always nice to hear from people that are you know, keen enough on the show to support it, you know, monetarily. So thanks, Andrew. Fair play.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Andrew. All right, now let's get to. You want to do some giveaways too before we move along?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we got a couple of new ones in this week. And nope, open. Let's see. You'd think I would be ready, but quicker than now. But no, it's the beauty of it. Just flows.
Well, as the resident experts on iCloud, we can assist you with that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you can't hear because this is in Excel. I know
boo.
you're only good at managing what I already wrote down for you to see.
Right.
It's like, all right, let's give Justin Van Camp donated Halloween from 2018, digital code for that.
Nice.
And we also have To Kill a Mockingbird from Mark Hader. He had donated that as well. Let's also add in Beauty and the Beast live action, also from Justin Van Camp. I hadn't included that one yet. Let's see. We had some pickup. Troy Thompson grabbed John Wick Parabellum Chapter 3. Let's see. We still have John Wick Chapter 2 available. John Wick's available. Last Night in Soho. Patriot Games. Deepwater Horizon. Some of All Fears. Like I just said, Beauty and the Beast. What else? We have Edge of Tomorrow still available. Warrior still available. So,
I mean,
plenty
anyone that is listening or watching, that if you haven't seen Last Night in Soho, get on that.
Oh my
because
God,
that
yeah.
film, and we're going to talk about another Anya Taylor-Joy film a bit later.
Yeah.
But that film is fantastic, and if you haven't seen it and you've got the
It's
chance to watch it
fantastic.
in a digital code, then jump on it because it's great.
And it's one of those movies that'll play well digitally, or I mean, the physical is going to be good, but this is one of those movies that it's the way it's shot. It's almost like it was shot by Netflix. It's a high contrast, but there's a lot of nice nuances to it. but the way they shot it, it's those. I think those nuances will play well digitally. They're going to obviously it'll be enhanced physically, but it's a fantastic movie, and the soundtrack to it, the music, the everything, the score. There's so much to that movie. I can't wait to see it again. My wife and I keep meaning to watch it. I love it.
Yeah,
absolutely love it. So. Let's also, we have I Know What You Did Last Summer, donated by you, Steve, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I had to import the disc, there. So.
So cool. So yeah, any of those, if you didn't hear me, instead of me repeating them, just back up about 30 seconds to a minute. Yeah. You'll hear them all again.
It'll be in the show notes.
So that's why I'm the tech guy. No. All right, let's get to our tweets for the week. Steve and John, you want to brag about your tweet of the week?
I don't have one, really. Yeah,
you do. You were just bragging about it before we started.
Well, I stole Steve's, and I'm going to let Steve talk about his.
Oh, okay.
But I don't have one.
I know.
Yeah, well, of course, I don't have a home theater tweak. Of course, I don't. I don't go near anything in my room at all. I, talk about demonic possession. I don't go in there unless I've got a crucifix in front of me in case anything goes wrong. So no tweaks. Other than, yes, I have discovered iCloud.com. Apparently, this is something very new, or at least it is to me since lunchtime today. So it's very cool. So if you need to, for some reason, for your home theater experience, you are using Apple products, and if for some reason you want to be able to use it on a laptop and not just an iPhone or an iPad, you can just log into literally iCloud.com. And then you can basically, it's not even, well, is it mirroring? I suppose it would be mirroring your iPad or your iPhone on a Windows PC. It's great. Yeah. And if you change something on one, it changes it on your iPad and your iPhone. And it's very, very cool. And obviously very glad that it's so new that I didn't know. Yeah. I mean, what I thought about, bear in mind that everyone that you have everyone setting up a new Apple ID is all iCloud.com. I don't know what I thought that was actually for. I don't quite know why I didn't think that must be a website of some kind, but I just didn't think about it at all until today.
It's one of those things that when somebody asks you, like you guys had asked me, like, how do you get that? And then that's what I said, but it's like, I didn't explain it because I thought you understood it. Right. It's just like, and it kind of like with John with the Odyssey EQ. And it's like, I didn't know I had to download it because nobody, not just me or anybody else. Nobody ever says like, okay, you just run your Odyssey, do this, blah, blah, blah. But nobody ever says the last step. So unless if you think you're just done, you're like, oh, that was great. And you think it's great, but it's just one of those, it's nobody's fault. It's just what happens. Right. Cause you just think you understood. Okay. You're not in my mind. I'm not in your mind. Who knows? But who knows? Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. So anyway, for us, it was a very important step.
Yeah.
I'm using it as we speak.
Exactly. It's fantastic. And what's funny is now, because the three of us are linked on this, if you change it there, it changes on all of our, everybody's, because we share our show notes through that. So it's pretty cool. Now the world's getting smaller, Steve. Isn't it great? It's like you're my neighbor.
It's just my brain. It's just my brain.
No, mine's always been there, so I'm used to it. Right?
Well, I'm still discovering mine. It's like Lucy.
Yeah. 1%, 1.1%,
half a percent.
You're going the wrong way.
Oh, damn! Now you tell me.
All right, my small tweet.
So what about
this
your tweet,
week just happened this morning. I sat down to watch the final episode of Wednesday, and one of the things, and we'll talk more about it later, but one of the things I really like about it is it's a fantastic HDR experience. And I've been watching a couple of other things, but mostly I've been predominantly watching Wednesday, and I just love the show, binging it. So I'm loving the stream. And when I sat down this morning, the opening to episode 8, same as all the others, like it's, very, some really nice contrast and the way they manipulate the camera and the focus and everything. But I started to, it kind of looked like it was in HD, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, this doesn't seem right. But I had watched something last night, just a little bit of it, and it came in fantastic. We'll talk about that one next week. But I'm like, wow, okay. So I was thinking that, like you jump out of something and it just looks so crystal clear that when you go back to it, you're like, oh, okay, maybe it's just a difference in the two. I thought maybe that's what it was, but then I started to see some pixelation going on and some artifacting that was very minor. Most people would never notice this. And then I was like, that's not right. So I stopped it. I backed out of it. I use an Apple TV for everything. And I don't know if you know, if you double click on like the TV screen button and you can back out of it, you can swipe up on everything and just clear all the clear the palettes, right? So I did that, cleaned everything out, went back into Netflix. So it has to reload Netflix. Boom, boom. You get that. And now, because I'm at reference level, the whole house shakes. So you get the boom, boom. I get right back into it, start it back up and watch the next 3-4 minutes again. Crystal clear. So it could be just your connection, because I was waiting for it to catch up, because sometimes when you go to stream, things will be digitally at first, but then it catches up. This wasn't catching up, but it wasn't that digitally. It wasn't that digitized. So I probably could have gone the whole show like that, but I knew it just wasn't as crisp as I wanted it to be. And I was like, maybe it's just me. So I backed out of it. Like I said, cleaned out everything and then started that one fresh. And it made that big of a difference. It was that nice. Like there's some fog in the background in one of the opening scenes, and then I think it's a blue light or something kind of hits it. And that kind of got a little digitally. And that's what really set me off. I was like, okay, that's not right. And then when I came back, it was crystal clear. So don't be afraid, but that's how I handle it.
Yeah. It's the OCD in me. Every time I finish watching the Apple TV, I have to close down all the apps. I cannot leave any of them running. It's OCD all day long. Same with my phone. They're always closed down. I never keep them open. It's weird. Can't help it. But,
well, it's funny. We've had some conversations, and I'm not sure if they're going to be in our listener experiences or not. I can't remember if I saved them, but we've had conversations on Twitter about streaming, and people especially this past week. I saw a couple of them. One person was talking about, I don't know if it was Netflix or HBOMax or something like that. But
Disney Plus, wasn't it?
Disney. Oh yeah, it was. It was Disney Plus. Yeah. And then another one was Jeff from HD Report. It was talking about NBC and the football game not looking good. And it's like, you can't, it's so difficult to blame the content creator, because they can do everything right on their end and we could be doing everything right on our end, but there's so many variables in the pipeline between the two of us that you can't blame. You never know. And to say definitively that something looks horrible, you and I talked about it a couple of years ago with, I think it was Greyhound, right?
It was. Yeah.
And it was like, I thought it looked great. And then, but when you get to streaming, one place looks great, another, and we're all getting, all things being equal, right? Like everybody's getting the 4K, HDR, Atmos. And when some people are saying it's horrible and other people are saying it's great, and it's like, and then they start arguing, and that's why I'm like, don't argue, because they both could be right. It just depends on where you are. Right. And that's what's hard.
You were right. You were right about Greyhound. I mean, you said at the time, look, it's probably your bandwidth, because the issue wasn't how it looked. It was the base. It struck me really thin. And you said, look, it's probably the bandwidth. And not long after that, I had the internet upgraded. I say upgraded, nothing compared to you guys. I mean, it was upgraded from about 60 meg to 160, which is, to you guys, that's like been back in the 1900s. But to us, it's quite quick. So,
that's good.
And so I recently rewatched Greyhound again, only, just before Christmas again, while I had some time off. And it was much better. There was bass. There was booming to the waves hitting the hulls and to the guns. And I tweeted out that time. Actually, all right, it is good. So it's definitely the case. I don't think anyone wants to admit it. I don't think anybody really wants to say, "Oh, it's my system." In other words, kind of how it's set up, or the bandwidth. Or anything. No one really wants to admit that it's theirs. It's easier to blame the content creators, isn't it? Because that's not your fault. But actually, in reality, it is. I mean, that's just the reality of it. It seems. I think that's right. But it is in here using iCloud.com. I can tell you that this is one of the things we're going to be talking about in a bit.
Look at that.
Seamless.
All right.
This episode is sponsored by Apple.
I know. And I forgot to put the sounder in for Tweaks of the Week, too. So I'll have to do that in post. All right. Are you ready to get to some listener experiences?
Sure.
All right.
Yep.
Let's flatten these out nice here. Okay. Why don't you, Steve? Why don't you take the first one this week?
Okay, well, the only problem with this is that this is from someone called Randy. And I'm just saying that over this side of the pond, someone called Randy has got a very different connotation. Anyway, you would not use that name in the UK. That's all I'm saying. Anyway.
Poor Randy.
So yeah, poor Randy. Well, quite. I'm not besmirching his name. I'm not taking it in vain.
I think you just did.
Don't use it if you come across to England. You'll never live it down.
We all saw what's it? The Mike Myers
National Lampoon's European Vacation.
No, that too.
It's called yeah.
What the hell was it? Austin Powers. He says it in that.
Groovy baby.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right.
Right. Okay. So, Randy, it's an email, and I think it must be to you, Deej. I'm not sure, but it's an email that is entitled "First Surround Sound Movie," and it says as follows: "It says, hi DJ, just thought I'd throw this out to the panel. What was the first surround sound movie that you experienced? For me, it was Oliver Stone's Vietnam epic Platoon. I remember the feeling of hearing shells flying from corner to corner of the theater. Up to that point, all the sound came from the front stage. It was the most revolutionary thing in movies up to that time, and is the touchstone moment that has spawned what we enjoy today." What a question. I'd missed this until I just read that. Okay. You guys go first then, because I need some time to think about this.
I think I'm pretty sure John and I are probably going to be the same. I'm like,
I say I'm not 1,000% sure, but I have to imagine it's Star Wars: A New Hope. Because that is always my go-to when I add anything. And then probably shortly after that would be Twister. Is one that I really remember.
being
at home or in the theater?
At home.
Okay.
So that's why, it's a great question, Steve. Home theater, home or the theater. And that's why I would always say Star Wars, because Star Wars was where I tried to recreate what you did at the theater. And it was trying to get that sound all around. First surround sound movie. It was always Star Wars. And it was literally called just surround sound, Dolby surround sound. And you could get that through VHS. And so that's what we would use. And like what John and I were doing in the 80s is we were taking.
That was probably just 2 speakers at that point.
Right. Or you could, like what we would do is we would bridge off of that and try to, we used home, stereo equipment, like from, those, you'd have, it looked like it was a rack, but it was all one piece, and you'd have a double tape deck and a turntable on top and everything, but you would bridge off of that and create your own surround sound. And then that's why we are always telling people, like, just do what you want to do and then grow from there, because that's when you realize, like what John and I were doing back then was like, we were literally sending 2 channels to as many speakers in the room as we could get. Right. So it wasn't really separated surround sound, but we were surrounding ourselves with sound. And I had TV speakers in the ceiling. My dad came home and we had a suspended ceiling, and I cut openings. I had 6x9 speakers. So then I cut with the round circle in the little panel that went up there, and he's like, "What that?" And I had like 4 of them up there, and that's what ended up blowing. Like it blew up my stereo because it was the wrong ohms. Car stereos were different. So I was like, and I was outside like doing yard work, and so I put the speakers in the window, but because they were connected still to the ceiling speakers, and I blared it to 11. So way past the amplification. And then all of a sudden the sound went away. My room was filled with smoke. So, okay. But anyways.
And the 16-year-old Steve was kicking in the door and dragging you out.
Yes, exactly. You were the one.
Well, I didn't like to say.
But yeah. So it definitely was. That was Star Wars. And then what you learned from there, like what John and I would do, be like, that's not surround sound. So then you realize to get real surround sound, you needed to have a hi-fi VCR with the 2 channels there, so that would actually pull that out. What did we use? Star Wars, right? And then as they came along, I'd say my next one, John, would probably be, from my memory, would be T2. And that was many years later, but that was the one that, again, on VHS, to be able to have that, and the scene when she's cutting in the John Connor's stepmom or the foster mom is cutting in the kitchen and then goes chunk into the father, but the phone rings on the other side first. And when we would watch that in my room, and I had a phone on that same side, and people I was with in my room would be like, your phone's ringing, because it sounded like it was coming from that side. And I distinctly remember that. And of course, the other scenes. I mean, that's a great movie. You have great pans that went to the explosion goes to the back of the room. But yeah, it's definitely Star Wars. So did you come up with one yet, Steve?
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of the cinema, I mean, obviously I'm a whippersnapper on this here bus bench. I'm the child that needs to be, looked after.
Protected.
I think we've already
the little guy in the middle.
that. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the little nipper on this panel.
Good boy.
So that's it. Yeah, pat me on the head. Even if I am the one with the least amount of hair, like just a big baby, really, that's fine. I get it. The good news is, guys, you don't have to change my nappies.
No.
Anyway, diapers. Sorry, diapers. Anyway. So, I think the earliest cinema experience I can remember was seeing Empire Strikes Back. So 81, 80, wasn't it?
80.
Yeah, 80.
Yep.
So I would have been 6. And I can remember, I think I told you this before, DJ. I don't know if I think I did on one of the Takeover Tuesdays. I was in New Zealand. I don't remember seeing Star Wars: A New Hope in the cinema. I don't remember that at all. And I'm not sure where I saw it, but I must have done, because my parents, the way I remember this story, my dad, I mean, my mum's no longer with us, but my dad, I was only talking to him about this the other day. The way I remember this, bear in mind, memory's a funny thing, just ask Prince Harry. Anyway, so the way I remember this is that it was the last night that it was showing. And I convinced my parents to drive from Hamilton in New Zealand, which is a little town, some 60 miles to Auckland, which is one of the biggest cities in New Zealand. None of them are big, but it was one of the biggest city. It's like a block in America,
Yeah.
Anyway, it was quite big at that time. So, and it was a 60-mile trip, and so 120-mile round trip to take me to see Empire Strikes Back on the last night it was showing. And the way I remember this is it was a big old-fashioned theater, with drapes, curtains, and all this stuff, and all these kind of, it looks like an opera house. And it had little twinkly lights in the ceiling, and I've never forgot that. Anyway, long story short. Anyway, so now that must have been in surround sound. It must have been, because it was Empire Strikes Back. Right. And that's one of my earliest memories of going to the theater, to the cinema. So that must have been my earliest surround sound experience, because, having seen Star Wars, Jaws, those will have been seen on campsites, on little projectors in a church hall. Those, I'm pretty sure they didn't have surround sound in there. Who's to say, but probably not. So that's the theatre. Now, in terms of home cinema, now tell me this. Did you guys, you were talking about stereo VCRs. Mm-hmm. Did you get NICAM stereo there? If I say NICAM, does that make any sense at all, or is that just complete? No. I mean, I'm sure it's an acronym for some load of crap. It's probably just a marketing gimmick. Yeah. But it was NICAM stereo. Okay, and so our video cassette recorders, VCRs, had NICAM stereo on them. And I can remember having a Dolby Pro Logic receiver. This must have been my first one. And so you had and I had 2 little tiny, tinny little speakers that were my rears. And they would have been like the kind of thing you'd have in your garden. They were tiny little ones. And then I had paradigm speakers across the front, so I had the center and then the left and right. No subwoofer, of course, because what was a subwoofer back then? Right. And so I had those. And I remember watching Die Hard, obviously. And I remember having that. But the one that sticks out even more than that, because Die Hard and Independence Day were the ones that they were showing in the stores. And those
so
were the two.
Mid-90s, right?
Yeah, with Die Hard, where you'd have the helicopters, come down the street and then go around and then go out. They had that one, and then with Independence Day, the jets swooping low over the,
Yep.
in one of the dogfights, swooping low and then coming up and over. And that's what they were demoing them with. But the one that sticks out more, and you will not be surprised to learn this, is Scream, the first Scream film. Because at the beginning of that, there is a sequence in that where the Drew Barrymore gets a phone call, and then but then also after that there's a phone ring, and the phone came from right behind me. At least it felt like, of course, it was Matrix, wasn't it? But it felt like it came right behind me, and that felt like you said, it felt like there was a phone actually ringing. And genuinely, sort of, you get enough to think, what the hell was that? So I think that was Scream. That's the one that leaps out. Yeah, quite. And that would have been on my giant 29-inch CRT TV, and my Dolby Pro Logic in a massive living room. It was really big at that time. So how I could hear anything on that, I don't know, but I did. And that's the one that always kind of springs to mind. And funnily enough, when we had the 4K Scream disc last year, and I played that, I was listening out for that. And it wasn't anywhere near as much presence as watching on 2.1 Dolby Pro Logic bloody stuff from way back when.
Yeah, it's like John and I talked. Yeah, it's weird because I'm wondering if John and I have talked about this before with Star Wars, and you know the scene, John, when he shoots the grappling hook and they have to swing across, and our memories of that scene back in the 80s and into the 90s, when we were first, when you got your Pro Logic set up and you legit had the hi-fi VCR, the 2-channel stereo VCR that would separate and everything, and then your receiver would matrix everything out for you, you're like, I got to see this scene. And it was like, the echo was like amazing when Leia's like, I think, we got to get across the other side or whatever. And it just echoes, right? You play it now, and I'm like, that's not even, it's not what I remember. It's not as echoey. It's not as boomy. But I'm wondering if it is the same. It's just that was just one of those things that could really stand out back then, because we didn't have the systems that could do, we're just so used to everything now that doesn't stand out to us like it did back then. So. It's
also, of course, they've been remixed so many times, especially Star Wars. I mean, I think that gets remixed once a week, doesn't it? And so, so all these different mixes are prioritizing different things. And so, no doubt. I mean, again, Star Wars, how many audio mixes do you think that thing has had? I mean,
I think I own them all.
Every new generation, there's another one. Well, indeed. Right. But so when you're remixing that, and funny enough, you were talking to Omar, weren't you, about, the highs and the lows of dynamic volume and that kind of stuff. So if you're a sound mixer and you've got all this stuff to play with, and it's Skywalker Ranch they have, then you can imagine them going, well, we won't prioritize that echo here. We're going to prioritize the dialogue. So we're going to change and tweak that. So you're actually listening to a different track, an entirely different track to what you had before. And I wonder if that's the case with Scream and with, all these movies. They've been remixed to within an inch of their lives. We're not listening to the original theatrical audio and never were. So I wonder whether that's something to do with it as well. But I don't know. But it is funny how with crystal clear, state of the art-ish audio that we've got now, it's not as dynamic in those little bits that we had way back then.
Back then, though, we actually were, from what I understand, is we were listening to the theatrical audio, and that's what THX came in, and THX would actually bring that down and utilize the audio better for our smaller confined spaces, right?
Okay.
Now they actually do mix it separately for the home. Okay, so there's a theatrical mix, and then there's the, Blu-ray, down mix for the smaller environment. So who knows? Maybe that's why it was echoey back then, because we were actually getting the theatrical mix. That was
it could have been.
So
it could have been.
But it's fun. It's all, I mean,
cool question.
Memories. All right.
That's a really good question. I like that question. That's a great
wasn't
one.
that good? Yeah. That one came in today. That's why I put it at the front of the show.
I was going to say that was why I hadn't seen it. I missed that one.
See, I snuck one in on you there. Nice job, Randy.
Well done, iCloud.
Yep. All right, John. I allowed Steve to avoid this one, so why don't you take this one?
Dude. Hey, dude.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so this is from I'm Lil Chili Willy in SoCal.
Yep.
YouTube comment says, "Hey bros, I would like to provide my tweaks of the week to share with y'all. Some of the tweaks that I'll be sharing will be what I was able to get this past year, and they have been so wonderful for me and my wife in our HT in our living room. Unfortunately, I don't have a dedicated HT. After upgrading my center channel speaker from Martin Logan Motion 30i to the Martin Logan Motion 50X Ti, my new tweak was beginning my journey in separates with my Marantz SR6012. I was able to purchase the power amplifier Emotiva DR1 monoblock that provides 650 watts in 8 ohms and 1000 watts into 4 ohms for my center channel speaker. A bit of overkill? Question mark? Absolutely. 100%. But hey, isn't that what we do for HT is overkill anyways?
Yep.
The clarity, dynamics, and wow factor was not only amazing, but was just an ear-opening experience. I've been an HT enthusiast for over 30 years and never had experienced separates before. Unfortunately, I don't have any friends or acquaintances that share my HT love. I'm so happy to find and listen to others that share my love and for movies as well. Peace and love, bros.
Yeah. Going to separates it's interesting because you'll hear in the forums and people tell you that it doesn't make a difference, and other people will tell you that it's the biggest difference, the biggest upgrade you can do, and this and that, and it's kind of somewhere in the middle, right? And it's like, I mean, when I'd gone to separates before, but when I did it before, I had to do it because it was my Onkyo receiver. It needed an amplifier to get Atmos. Okay, it didn't have it in, internal amplification to handle everything. So that's when I got my Emotiva XPA5. And I ran my 5 mains, but I didn't, at the time, I had upgraded the entire system. So going to Atmos, like when I got everything all at once. I never really experienced the receiver on its own and then added the amp. I bought everything all at once just so I could get Atmos. So I didn't really, and it was an Onkyo, probably subpar receiver at the time. It was an early Atmos receiver, and Onkyo's room correction they had lost Odyssey, so it wasn't as good. Going to the Denon, I went straight with the Denon. That was a huge upgrade. Probably one of the biggest upgrades I've ever heard. Going to that, and that was going in the reverse order. That Denon actually ran everything, ran all 11 channels. So that was a reverse upgrade to this, and that was one of the biggest sound upgrades. That was the one when I brought my wife down, she thought I got a new projector too, because the audio was so much better. She thought the picture was better too. When I went to my Marantz 7706 and back to that same Emotiva amp and then the basic 6 running my whole system, big upgrade, almost as big as that upgrade in sound. And it was that separate sound, and there was a clarity there that I've talked about in the past that I'd never heard before, and a clarity in the mid-range and just the surround sounds and just how everything's cleaner and nicer. So but again, stuff like that, it takes years of our experience and all of us sitting here listening to the same things over and over and then doing it again. But you bring somebody in fresh and they go, yeah, that sounds great. And then you give them another version and they're like, that sounds great too. You're like, yeah, you're right. It does. And we're talking little things, but to us, it's a big thing. So that's where both people, I think, are right. It's a big upgrade because it's a big upgrade to you, and you can appreciate that difference. But then to other people, it's just a tiny upgrade because they don't have the appreciation for all that, right? So, congratulations, Chili Willy. That's awesome.
Yeah,
great stuff. Any comments, guys, before I jump to the next one?
I admire that John was able to get through that without doing a surfer dude accent. So, fair play, John. That's my comment on that. Well done. Good man. I can't stop it.
You were just reading along in your head with the accent, weren't you? Yeah.
You just can't say bros normally. It's got to be bros.
Bros.
You cannot say it normally.
Oh, all right. I'm gonna read this one really, really quick. Probably not even read the whole thing, but Jay emailed me about Terminator 2 with a question about Dolby Digital EX and the new and the better audio on the 4K. If it is a better audio, I haven't had a chance to A/B this yet, but I really want to. So we're gonna push this question till next week. But I just wanted to let Jay know. I did email him back, but I just wanted to let him know that this will be in the show next week because it's a great question because there's an older version of Dolby Digital DTS-X on the Skynet edition. It's a 6.1 DTS Master Audio. Okay, so it's in DTS-EX, I believe. So he wanted to know, like, which is better? And I'm like, that's a great question. And it's like, because there's, the 4K is supposed to have, it does have a decent soundtrack to it. I own all of these, and I was like, hey, I'll do the A/B for that. So we'll get to that next week. I didn't have a chance to sit down because I knew that would be a rabbit hole that would probably take most of my day because I love Terminator 2. And that's how he starts the question off. So we'll save that for next week. So I'll go to.
Will you tell me this, Deej? Will you upmix it to Neural X, both of them, or will you simply keep it as pure audio on both?
No, and that's why I wanted to give it the time that it deserves and be able to A/B it correctly, and I'll do it pure, and then I'll do it with the upmixing and see which one, if there's any benefit to that, or if upmixing actually levels it. If let's just say the 5.1 that's on the 4K, it doesn't sound as good as the 6.1, but then when you upmix it, it kind of evens it out. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. I have a feeling that I don't know. I'll save it for next week, but I'm going to go
got
pure.
Potentially 4 there, haven't you? You've got Dolby Digital EX, Dolby Surround, DTS-HD, and then Neural X. So you're potentially 4 to look at there, isn't it? You'll have to watch the film 4 times, Deej. 4 times minimum in a day.
Yeah, no biggie.
He's done it before.
I've done it before.
Yeah, I was going to say yesterday.
Yeah. Okay. WV Brew. My buddy John. My buddy Charles. John Charles.
It's John Charles?
John Mensor.
Are we sure this isn't George Santos?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Sorry. I've been listening to Stephen Colbert. I only apologize.
He doesn't. Yeah. He doesn't know who he is. It's not me that doesn't know who he is. He doesn't. All right. At Brightside HT. HT Experiences test DTS Upmixer versus Atmos track 1 hour, 7 minutes halftime show and main battle scenes. Drums in HT show will shake your room. Combat scene will make you duck for cover. Stadium scenes among the best for sports events 2. 3D disc only has 5.1 4K Atmos. So 5.1 Atmos? Interesting. I haven't had a chance to watch those are all great scenes. I haven't had a chance to experience them since he sent this tweet. But what I can say is very interesting. On Kaleidoscape, Billy Lynn's comes in 60 frames per second. So, not a fan for Steve, but it does come in and it looks fantastic. I've seen it. It looks great. And just for comparison, for some reason, Gemini Man doesn't. On Kaleidoscape, you just get the standard. It's not a high frame rate. So I was a little disappointed with that because I really liked that. I mean, I have the disc, so I can put the disc in. But yeah, so maybe I'll check that one out for next week as well. Check out that scene anyways. But thanks, WV. Steve, you're up next.
Okay, so this is from Tom Bellows. Is this a DM? It looks to be. I think it might be. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you can just read his. I just want.
Yeah, tweet. Yeah. So so from Tom Bellows, I think I'm saying that right, or Bellows. So he says, I listen every week, but only to hear you and John, and now Steve, who's a great addition. Oh, cheers, Tom. However, I'm not into the home theater experience. I just love movie talk. And someone that's hacked DJ's Twitter feed says, thanks, I appreciate that. So cool. Glad we are still entertaining.
Yeah. So to give some background to you, Steve, and to the listeners, Tom Bellows is one of our longtime listeners from chat. John and I from chat. And I got this. He actually, this is a DM that's over on our chat, DM. And I got, I have my alerts on for that. So I went over and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. That's really cool. It's like, and that's one of the fun things about podcasting is that, people will follow, and I do the same thing. You follow people's voices because you become familiar with them. They become like friends to you. And then for Tom to reach out to say hi, we had a conversation before and after this as well, but I just wanted to get that in. So thanks, Tom. I really appreciate you reaching out. And it is pretty cool that you reach, he's like, oh, you guys are going over there? Boom, I'll go there too. And he's like, he says, not into home theater, but he likes the movie talk and he just likes to listen. So thanks, Tom.
Yeah, man. Very cool.
All right, John, you want to read this one here? This is that conversation. You could just read Steve's first one up at the top.
Okay. Yeah. This is a tweet from Steve Ratcliffe. It's asking the question in which Steve could probably answer better than you or I. Has Disney Plus UK had an update? Just looked at the Star Wars and Dolby Vision and Atmos. They look and sound amazing. Maybe Paramount Plus can take some tips and give us 4K with some sort of surround sound.
So this is a conversation.
I don't know.
We've
had
earlier.
it in Atmos and 4K since Disney Plus launched.
Yeah.
Yeah, so have we.
Yeah. So I think what Steve's saying here is just the quality just improved. Their Atmos and 4K, because I thought the same thing when I replied to him. I was like, you didn't have it in 4K in the first place, and through conversation and everything, and Steve jumped in as well. It seems like it improved, and I think this is one of the conversations that also led to that different variables, different places. So,
yeah, I mean, I haven't noticed any sort of significant improvement in Disney Plus, and I've been watching stuff on there this week. So I don't quite. I mean this respectfully. I don't quite know what Steve is getting at there, other than maybe it is a broadband upgrade. It's a bandwidth upgrade.
Yeah.
Because I personally haven't noticed any massive jumps. We've had Star Wars in 4K and Atmos since the beginning, same as you guys, and we got it way after you. So if you got it in 4K and Atmos a day more, then we certainly did as well. And of course, it was the very first thing I looked at when Disney Plus went live over here. So I'm not quite sure what he's referring to there, other than maybe it's a broadband upgrade, because I haven't seen any new upgrade notes and not seen anything new come through. But what is cool is he's seen an upgrade, however he's come across it, and now is really enjoying it. So that's the headline, isn't it? So everything else is kind of secondary. It's great news that he's seen a jump in performance, because Disney Plus is pretty decent across the board. There's not many things on there that you can criticize from an audio video point of view. And again, you guys mentioned in that conversation about Prey, which of course we've got in Dolby Digital, Dolby Atmos, and it's it's fantastic. It looks and sounds great, as does the vast majority of what's on there, other than perhaps The Mandalorian season 1, which we've talked about at some length.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the other thing that's interesting too is that some internet providers throttle stuff back on purpose during peak hours. They'll limit what each individual can actually take so that everybody gets a fair share. You know what I mean? Like during higher hours that you can only get so much. So that could be, it depends on when you're watching. It depends on your region. Again, that's what I was trying to say. Like there's so many variables to this stuff. During the pandemic, I remember hearing reports that England was trying to throttle everything back, so that they were weren't they trying to do away with 4K for a while? I remember seeing people complain about it, and it's like, because going from 1080 to 4K isn't really that much of a bandwidth jump, and they were making more of a big thing, and people that love 4K were like, what are you doing? You're not really gaining much, but you're ruining the experience for everybody that's paying for 4K, and it's like, it was a big mess. But there's a lot of variables.
It was happening across the EU. It's happening across Europe as well. That's what started it, and then it kind of rolled from there. So Netflix, Disney Plus, everybody, because of course people were staying home and working from home, they were discovering that there were internet problems. So they did throttle it back for a while, not massively, but they did.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, as I said, I can't really account for kind of why Steve's seeing a different jump, but yeah, glad that he is and glad that he's enjoying it.
Yeah. We got a couple more here. I'm going to couple these together. We have Steve. Again, what's everyone's thoughts on Sky UK? Download to your hard drive, then play. Start playing after a few minutes. All your purchases are shown so you can delete when the hard drive is full. Also, loads of free 4K and Atmos films. Picture and sound is good. Before and then very similar to that, Omar says, "Can you see the future? Oh my God! Can we imagine 300 megabytes over 16 megabyte on Blu-ray?" And this is talking about a new disc that's coming out, and I don't think it'll ever see the light of day because I think everything's going in the direction of what Steve was just talking about, in that everything's going to be streaming. I had mentioned to him on Twitter, I was like, I've been talking about this for years, going even to the fact that, like, and this is how far back it goes. I remember talking about like Big Bang Theory, right? Like Monday night, your television or your system will download the entire week's content, but then it's flagged to release at 8 p.m. on Thursday. Big Bang Theory will be released, right? So then you don't have to worry about streaming because, like, already pre-recorded shows, they can upload. They're already uploaded at the studio. You think it's not a live show. So all this stuff could be sent to you in a timely manner. That would free up the bandwidth because just in your region, they do it at 3 o'clock in the morning when it could take as long as you want, right? And like I said, I talked about this years ago, and now seeing it with the Kaleidoscape, that's what you do with your Kaleidoscape. Unless you say, I want to download it immediately, I have mine set to download at 2 in the morning so that it doesn't take up the bandwidth of the house. So there's a lot of options that people can do here, and that they're all going in that direction, not in the direction of what Omar's talking about in this 10, and we talked about it like a year ago. I had Ara on to talk about it, that 100 or 10 gigabyte disc. And I'm like, why does it, let me ask you guys, we'll bring this up again. Why does everybody think that everything has to be on a spinny disc? It's like they forget, like a flash drive. It's like they forget about just a regular drive works.
Well, it's because that's what we've had. That's what we have. That's why. And that's what, from Laserdisc to DVD to Blu-ray, it's always been a spinning disc. Even LPs, going back to CDs, so that's why we're ingrained to think it has to be that way, because the best quality we've ever gotten has been on a spinny disc.
Right.
And not tape. So
right. Well, even a tape it spun inside, right? It had reels and it had to spin. So you always had that. But to have an actual just like this
flash drive,
just a flash drive. That's all you get. Nothing spins. It's just boom. You stick it in, and it's like, and you could put on this drive. This could be 10 gigabytes. This could have the entire Star Wars saga on it, and that's what I said back then. I'm like, you could have everything right there on that. Right, no problem. You put it in,
or half of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, which movie? But you know what I mean. But and then we had people. I think Mark V was the one like, well, then what would you do for the case? I'm like, you could still put this in the same casing, right? You could still package this in the exact same Blu-ray box. You could still put this in the same box that the Star Wars saga came in, and it'd be wrapped in velvet.
Steve couldn't stick them in his little sleeves, though. Yeah,
right.
How are you going to get it in that, Deej? That's what I'm saying. That's not going to fit.
No,
a floppy disk.
But ideally, what you could do is you could put more than one movie on here. Right. So then you could do that, but all of this stuff.
If I ran it over, would it then fit in there? Would that be okay?
It might.
But you know what I mean? It's like, my point is, none of it will ever see the light of day because like when Ara and I were talking about it, like, because everybody's like, well, what about copy protection? Well, how do you think they put copy protection on a disc? A disc is just a read-only product. They can make a flash drive read-only, right? No problem. You could put copy protect. It's all programmed. And Ara was like, you could do all that. They could have done this 10, 15 years ago. And then you could have a special player, or you just plug it into you put the drive right into your television, make it super simple. But the point is, nobody's developing something that's so much easier, so much more durable than a disc, because it's not going to get dirty. You don't have to worry about your fingerprints on it. But they're not developing it because everything's going streaming. That physical part is dying. And the only thing, if you want to keep it, maybe they let you download it and own it on your own hard drives, similar to what Kaleidoscape's doing now. Sure, other people will do it too as the technology becomes more prevalent. So I just think that, and it's sad to say, I mean, everybody knows I love physical media, and it's probably, I'm one of the few people that in physical media that can actually say with no guilt, because I've bought movies multiple times, just to say it's dying.
Really?
It is flat out dying. It's gonna go away. We just see the end of it. That's all. It's like, because they're not developing anything new, and the new stuff's staring us right in the face, but they're not doing it. So.
But the question becomes, how long will it take to die? I don't think it's going to die anytime soon. I think you're talking medium to long term. This is not dead within the next 5 years.
No,
I don't think.
No.
And so, you look at the sales of DVDs, still outselling Blu-rays and 4K discs. They're still too damn convenient for the masses for it to go away. So we're not talking soon. And when you look at the alternative, which are things like Kaleidoscape, they are such. The expense at the moment is such that they are certainly for the foreseeable going to be niche products in terms of, because Kaleidoscape, of course, is in a very specific niche, which is you're getting something which is digital, but it exceeds the physical. Whereas I mean, Steve Rafferty's talking about Sky UK. That's a hard drive, but they're not downloading movies to the Kaleidoscape quality. They'll be probably DVD quality, if not Blu-ray. Or maybe 4K, but it won't be that stuff will not be better than the disc. I can guarantee you that.
Right now,
knowing Sky as I do. Exactly. So I think that there's no need for your physical media people to panic and think, right, that's it. It's no point buying anymore. Right. Because of course it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, doesn't it? If you say to someone who wants to buy a physical disc, it's going to die, then they're going to go, well, I won't buy that then because it's going to die, in which case it will then die because you didn't buy it. Right. So I think this is not going to happen soon. And even when it does, look at vinyl. It's made a comeback. People are buying it again. It becomes a very niche. Yeah. But it's still there and it's thriving. Mm-hmm. So I think that I mean, I get it. You obviously you are right about where it's going to go for the masses eventually. Right. But I don't think it's happening soon. And you've only got to look at the number of things being released on physical media to see that's likely the case. But, who knows? Crystal ball time.
What the difference is right now is, so like when John and I went through the Laserdisc, we didn't think it would, say 1995, you're like, this is going to be around for a while, right? It was literally dead in 2 years. Right.
Yeah.
Because DVD came along, and people were buying DVDs that never bought Laserdiscs. And you're like, but they're literally the exact same thing, except for DVDs. The only difference was it's smaller. But at the time, John and I
have to change them, so you didn't have to flip them as many times during the film.
No, some of the DVDs you did. Some of them you
had
did.
A flipper, but once, not 4 or 5 times during a film.
Correct. But that wasn't the biggest draw when you had a Laserdisc player was, what am I going to get that for? I can't record with it. Because everybody was using their VCR, because nobody had a DVR back then. So everybody was using their VCRs to control that was our DVR back then. You had to set up and program it to record your soaps or record whatever you wanted to see. So people couldn't wrap their mind around, and John and I heard it all the time, like, what good is that? It doesn't record. But then DVD comes out and they're like, this is great. Why? It doesn't record. It's like, it literally was the same quality as Laserdisc, and there was a big argument that Laserdisc was still better, but DVD, it literally killed, like off a cliff, boom, Laserdiscs. I kept it going for another few years, but it died quickly. The reason was because
HD
DVD and Blu-ray came along, then HD DVD just lost the war, right? Same with Beta.
But if you bought into that, you were
right. It was dead. But I think what's keeping today's physical media, and what, to your point, Steve, it's not going anywhere quick, is because whatever does come next, it's not going to be substantially better. If anything, nothing is better than physical right now, as far as streaming goes. And even when streaming catches up to it, it'll only be, because we're at, like Omar and I talked about, and I talk about with everybody, is we're at the point of like, we're going past our perception. Right, the quality increases we're getting, we can't even perceive them. So the next version of 4K HDR can't be too much better than it. There's not a lot that's going to be able to kill it completely. It'll always be there. Whereas Laserdisc, why do I want to go watch a Laserdisc right now? I mean, that's dead. Why do I mean, everything's so much better than it, right? So that's why I think you're right. It's going to die a slow death, but the masses are going to be like, why are you bothering? Because look, and they're already saying it. We've been in the arguments. Streaming's better than physical. What are you, nuts? Because it's not right now. But or to actually, they're correct. They just don't have the system that can appreciate it. And that's not a brag. That's just a fact. And that's great. That's why it's so good. And that's what a great state we're in now. Right? It's like, I mean, it's really, really good quality for streaming right now.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think the temptation is, isn't it, with technology, is to see everything as cyclical and look to our past to determine our future. And you can do that with most things, but I'm not entirely sure you can with technology, because the markets are in different places each time. Because you talk about DVD replacing Laserdisc, but you couldn't record. But you still can't record on a 4K disc. You can't do that on that. You can't record Netflix other than downloading it. But then that makes it different again, then, doesn't it? Because we have the ability to do different things. So each position, each entry to the market for a new format changes its penetration timescales and its penetration abilities because of the particular market at that time. And so I think that it's not always the case of, well, okay, VHS came along and then it died, and Beta went as well. And because we've now got DVD, and then Blu-ray came along, and that's the end of DVD, because it's not. Blu-ray's still outselling DVDs are still outselling Blu-rays and 4K combined.
Right.
You know,
Van Gool has a great point in the chat. I'm reading along. Everybody in the chat, thank you, everybody. We've gone. I mean, these guys are talking about when Laserdisc was founded and stuff. I'm keeping up, but Van Gool had a great point, and he said, he goes, look at Best Buy. They stopped selling CDs. Look at the downfall. Once the streaming audio from iTunes and all of that, CDs off a cliff. They're off a cliff. Nobody's buying CDs. And what are people buying now instead of CDs? They're going way back to vinyl for that different, that sound, because they want that. I think, and that's why I think that's a great point, because once streaming matches physical, boom, off a cliff. There'll be people like us that'll be like, all right, I'd still love to do this, but why? If you can literally say, and we'll be the people that'll be judging it, like if you can literally say streaming has caught physical, that's when it goes off a cliff. Because what's the point? Because you want the box, and you don't, Steve. I don't. I mean, I've never. I love the artwork, and I collect a few of them, but not like some people do. But yeah, that's when I think that's when the cliff comes, is when it finally matches, and we have evidence of that with CDs, because.
You also have to ensure that high-speed internet is available to every household in the world. Yeah. Because right now, DVDs are outselling, because in lots of the country, you can't stream Netflix. You can't even get these things because you don't have high-speed internet.
You know what you just said, John, is a great point, though. DVDs are outselling. Not Blu-rays, not 4Ks.
Right.
DVDs are the leading sellers. People aren't even buying in masses the best quality. They're buying worse than streaming on DVD. Right? So,
but I bet you those are being sold in all of these areas where they can't really reliably stream, and that's why.
But they're also not buying the best quality.
No.
If they could
'cause
stream,
they still have a,
if they could
still
stream,
have
it would be
their
better than the
20-year-old
DVD.
DVD player, right?
Right? That's crazy.
But even then, you're also then looking at, think about the impact that cost of living. You've got the issues then with the streaming services putting up their prices. I noticed today that my Apple TV subscription, whatever it is, has gone up.
Yep.
It doesn't matter because I expected it, but it's gone up. And so at some point there becomes this balance of, do I need that streaming service to get my movie kick? Or do I want to just go and buy whatever it is I want, knowing then that I'll be able to keep that, and then I don't have to pay that again. I'm not paying every month for that same film. I've got that movie, and there it is. And so, and I'm talking very specifically about your Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime. If and or when someone says, do you know what? You know that Kaleidoscape? We're going to have a piece of that. And Apple comes out with an Apple TV that lets you download and store these things.
Yeah.
That's when, that will then become a different dynamic. But at the moment, I think that there is still that idea that these things are going up.
That's one of the things Carl's been on me about since he first heard about Kaleidoscape a year and a half ago with me. He said Apple's going to have that someday, and I'm busting Carl's cojones right now.
Wait, but they will.
But they will.
have it someday.
I welcome that. He's like, what are you going to do then? I'm like, welcome it.
Yay.
Yeah, exactly. Competition breeds excellence, boys. Come on. It's like, you know what I mean?
You know
and they
what
won't be
do.
the only ones. Everybody will have it.
Right,
At some
exactly.
Point,
Yeah. But as soon as it becomes an affordable, when they can work it out to make it affordable and ensure that they can produce it in a way that will maximize that, then really that's the sort of thing they'll do. I mean, look, someone like Apple could buy Kaleidoscape. They could buy it tomorrow. Amazon could. Right.
Yeah, Kaleidoscape's a small company, right?
Yeah, they could buy that, mass produce it, half the price, and then here we go. If they wanted to.
But they don't.
But at the moment, they're all in on streaming. Yeah, they're all in on streaming at the minute.
And Carl being one of them. And one of the things I say is like, everybody's like, oh, Apple's coming after Kaleidoscape. They're going to come out with the same thing. And I was like, really? Watch all your Apple press conferences. Everybody, you know what the number one concern for Apple is? Cheaper.
Yeah,
Everybody wants it cheaper.
Yeah. Well, they want to make it cheaper. They don't want to sell it cheaper.
No, but they want Apple to come out with a slimmed down, dumber version of their Apple TV, so that now I could have, instead of buying a Fire Stick for $49.99, I can get an Apple Stick, and then you have the nicer version. The masses aren't asking for the upgraded Apple that would be like a Kaleidoscape, right? The masses don't want that. The masses want the Fire Stick, the Roku, and they're like, they sell. If you notice the numbers, Fire Stick, Amazon, and when you're talking Fire Sticks or Rokus, they tell you how many units they sold. Their units are outselling Apple. But what Apple's telling you is our revenue is higher because they charge more because they brought in more money. They don't have to sell as many if you're 3 times the price, right? It's all a numbers game. But everybody on the Apple side, they're trying to get Apple to come down in price, right? And that's what people are doing with Kaleidoscape. I'll buy one if they come down to $2,000. Well, yeah, but they sell 3 times. They don't have to sell as many if you have it. It's business, right? I don't see Apple all of a sudden getting into we're going to sell like 10 a year market. They want to sell to the masses. So not that the Kaleidoscape's selling 10 a year. But it's just I mean, it's all going to be streaming. Put it that way. There was another.
But it's an interesting time. It's an interesting time to be in this, because there are all these different things. But my view would be, don't not buy anything at the moment. Don't think, well, I'm not going to get that.
No.
There's no technology, I think, at the moment that is blatantly over. Yeah. Well, quite. But you know what I mean? I don't think at the moment we could definitively
you can't live
say,
like that. Not in this hobby.
Don't hold out, right?
Just you can't live like that in this hobby. If you're trying to wait for the last great product, that's never a thing. And I said that with the Kaleidoscape. And I had my detractors at the time, and anybody, and I understand it, but don't ever in this hobby, don't ever buy anything that you think is it need. And I gave that advice to a listener a little
game.
Yeah. Don't expect it to last 5 years. Right. And it's like, if you think that this is a loss with it, if it goes away in 5 years, then don't buy it, because chances are probably pretty good that they are. I mean, John, when did we get our laser discs? Like 92? something like that, when we finally could get ours, right? We were 22 years old. We wanted them since the 80s. But then when we finally, settled down and convinced our wives and you can get this, it was probably 92, literally dead in 97. And then we kept them going probably till 2000. I probably have some 2001 discs in my collection. But think about that. I mean, I have over 200 laser discs that I collected over in like 5 to 10 years, not even 10 years. But it's dead. Then I did the same thing with DVD. And now that's, well, to us, DVD's dead, right?
Right.
Then I did it with Blu-ray, 4K. Now I got a Kaleidoscape. My point isn't that that's the evolution. Expect that. Embrace it. Yeah. That's the fun of the hobby.
If this had been 2007 and HD DVD and Blu-ray were still alongside one another, we might have had a different conversation. But because of course,
I bought both.
I did too.
Yeah, me too. I did. I had over 100 HD DVDs. Yeah. Although I was watching mine on an Xbox 360. Yeah. I was watching mine on an Xbox 360, the little add-on drive thing that sounded like a 747 was landing next to your ear every time you tried to watch it. It was horrendously bad. I bought. Yeah. Did you have a Toshiba or?
Toshiba.
I bought the HD DVD player and then I watched Blu-rays on my PS3.
Yeah, I did. I bought my PS3 player. And do you know what?
I bought it and I told my wife I was only buying this for Blu-rays. I wasn't even going to play games. And I didn't for like a year and a half. Yeah. It was just my Blu-ray player. And then eventually I got games too. But it was the best player at the time.
It was.
It was. And in an example of weird synergy, John, I imported my PS3, which was going to be my Blu-ray player, from Texas.
Did you?
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's mad, isn't it? Crazy, funny world.
And I bought mine at Circuit City to call back to Omar today.
Hey, yeah. No, I started out with two individual players, and then when Blu-ray took off and won the war, that's when I got my PS3 because I experienced Blu-ray was horrible. It was hard. Their load time. That's what saved it. Is the PS3 was actually a computer that was able to handle Blu-ray in a way that HD DVD was already doing in their players. Okay, when you put in an HD DVD, the movie started probably in 20 to 30 seconds. You put in a Blu-ray into your Panasonic Blu-ray player or whatever, and you were like, I'll go get some popcorn, make a little snack, I come back, and then you get your menu.
I've never had one, so
yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. Plus, the Blu-rays weren't very good either. They were having issues with their. It was a disaster. It was the PS3 that streamlined everything. You put in your disc, and it was like boom, just like that, because it was basically a computer. It had the firepower to be able to handle it and streamline everything.
What was your first Blu-ray? Do you remember?
The Blu-ray? I have no idea.
To both of you, of course.
I have no idea.
300?
Maybe.
Ooh, that was quite late in the day because that was one of the Warner switching ones, wasn't it? Yeah, that was one of the Warner reissues.
I had the Bourne series in HD DVD. I probably, I think 300 was probably one of the
I had 300 in both. HD DVD
exactly. And I bought Blu-ray. A bunch.
But didn't the Blu-ray one come out quite a long time after, didn't it? Because that was when Warner's had properly jumped in with both feet because they had to reissue it, didn't they? Because the HD DVD version had the one without the effects. You had the blue screen version, and then you had the normal one, and then the Blu-ray came out way after that.
Yeah. Maybe that was my first HD. That might have been my first HD DVD then.
And that was the other part that made it like you wanted to have both for people like us, is because some movies weren't coming out on both; they were only coming out on one. So like I had to have the one, whichever one was going to do Terminator. I don't even remember. That time period was a blur because it was more about compare and contrast the two formats than it was like, I remember getting my first, I don't even remember my first DVD because I was still into Laserdisc and DVD was out and Dave's telling me it's not as good, blah, blah, blah. So
I do.
Yeah, I know.
I say I don't remember, but you obviously do.
Right.
Yeah. Well, again, because it's that. Sorry to keep talking about it, guys. You must get fed up with me saying about it.
Why?
It's that hazy, crazy summer of 1998 when I went into Cambridge Audio and I bought my Sony DVD player.
Yeah.
And I then went into Suncoast with my dollars in my sweaty mitts. and I went in there and I bought Scream 2, non-anamorphic. It was brand new at that point, non-anamorphic DVD. Because it was the Touchstone, not the Touchstone, the thing. Anyway, and so it was Miramax. So of course, initially they were non-anamorphic, but I bought that, and I bought RoboCop 2 as well, which had a snapper case. And I remember thinking, my God, it's a disc, because we never really had laser discs over here. So to have a movie on a disc was quite a big deal at that point for DVD. So that was like, whoa. And of course, I had to wait months before I could play it because I was living in America for 3 months. So,
got all the content.
And I think I've said before, by the time I got back, I had the player, 47 DVDs that I'd never seen. And would then get it, because at the end of every week when the kids used to leave for camp, they used, how you get tips, people, parents would tip you, and very quickly the kids realized that I was a big movie fan, and that the tips would be spent on this newfangled DVD technology, and they'd tell their parents, and the parents would then tip me $30 every time, so I could then go and buy a DVD. Yeah, it's great. So anyway, so I had 47 as I came back. So that was DVD, and then Blu-rays was, I'm ashamed to say,
Superbit? Superbit DVD?
Yeah.
The higher
Sony
bit rate?
Superbits.
Yep.
Yeah.
Superbit Blu-rays
that made much
that you were like,
difference.
whoa, look at that. I think
Desperado and Godzilla and Air Force One and all the Sony discs.
It was like going from, I think the Superbit, from my recollection, the improvement was like going from progressive scan to interlaced and back and forth. Like interlaced, it's just not as crisp when you go to progressive, and you're like, ooh, that's nice.
But I'm ashamed to admit, and this is where I may be about to surrender any movie cred that I may have, and I stress may, because the first Blu-ray, bear in mind, I had to import it from America. This had to come across the pond. So all the Blu-rays that were out, there weren't many. All right, I've just got to preempt this a bit. All right, so to get all my excuses in before I admit. This is good mitigation, you see, such a good lawyer. All right, is the first Blu-ray
filibustering or
I
mitigating?
Swear to you now. What time is it? Oh, never mind, we'll have to leave it till next week. I am sorry to say, Pearl Harbor.
I love that movie. I love
Well, you talked about Michael Bay earlier, of course. You talked about Michael Bay with Omar earlier.
Omar's in the house,
so
by
Pearl
the way.
Harbor. Yeah, hey Omar. Hey, buddy, you missed the
Omar's
shout
like,
out at
bring
the
back
beginning.
Circuit City. That's funny.
I thought he was going to say bring back hanging after I mentioned Pearl Harbor. Right. So that was the first. It was that X-Men Last Stand.
Yep.
Sorry. And then The Descent as well, the Neil Marshall plot holding horror film. None of those were out on
That's the
HD
one with the
DVD.
plot holes.
Well, yeah. Oh, very, very good. Yeah, absolutely, quite literally. So, although interestingly with that, very quickly, because I know we're getting on for time, although I've got all the time in the world tonight.
Apparently, we can tell.
Yeah.
Steve doesn't have to go to bed.
No, this is it. It's great.
And
I
apparently
actually
took a 5-hour energy too.
Yeah. I got to talk to the director of that film, Neil Marshall,
nice.
a couple of years after I bought the disc. He, at that point, had not even seen a Blu-ray, let alone the Blu-ray of his own movie.
Wow.
And so he and I had a brilliant conversation. I met him in Birmingham, not far from here. And I had it there, and I had him autograph it. And he was like, right. He was like, sit down. Tell me about the transfer. And I'm like, have you come to the right place? So
he pulled the pin and
that was it.
Just step back. Yeah, well, he's a big geek. He's a big geek. And so he's like, right, now that shot, what did that shot look like? What were the backgrounds like? How was the color timing of it? How did it, it was great. I had a proper nerdy conversation with the director of the movie that had done the thing. So yeah, it was very cool.
Anyway. Speaking of the pull the pin and stand back, you got something on the way. John, I know you have something on the way. We won't talk about it until all three of us have it in their possession, and then we'll bring it up. But thanks to Dan.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about now, right?
Well,
you don't know what it is, right?
No, I don't. I just know
do.
he was trying to get to us.
Yeah. So yours is on the way to you. I got to send it to you, Steve, and then we'll have a little
What
chat.
are we talking about?
Dan, Danny speakers.
Dan has something for us.
For us. And I got mine
Anthrax,
the other day.
Is it?
No. No, he's
Okay,
a
that's
fan of
good.
the show. I'm sure there's plenty of those.
Not trying to end us all.
Yeah, exactly. So that
We
was
can
really
just
cool.
stop. Really, you don't have to. You don't have to go that far.
Yeah.
Are we
I
sure
know.
it's not sort of some sort of cordyceps virus? Are we
No,
fairly
right.
sure that's not what it is? Because I've
Yeah.
seen something recently that said that's a bad idea.
Exactly. So yeah, we'll talk about that when all three of us have it in the possession. I'll get yours out. I'll ship it out this week. And who knows?
I'm mystified.
So by summer,
Yeah,
yeah. At the moment, it might be
It'll
quicker
come
to
with
just
your-
hand deliver it.
it'll
Christmas
come
card.
with your Christmas card for next year.
Yeah.
2028.
Exactly. I'll overnight it so you'll have it by July. But yeah, so that'll be cool.
I'm mystified, curious, and slightly terrified all at the same time.
Scruff Kingman says, Danny speakers, did you all get white vans? He has. I don't know if Scruff Kingman's been around long enough, but Johnny Speakers did have a white van because we joked about that, and he's like, "I'm sorry." It's pretty funny. Yeah. All right. That was just one question. So, all right, you ready to move on to the next one? No, that was actually two questions, but a great
That was
conversation.
two, yeah.
But that's the point.
Yeah.
That's the point. Don't feel bad. I don't. You want to take this one, Steve? Van Cool?
Yeah, so he obviously we mentioned Van Gaal earlier, and if he's listening, then
He is.
we've got your next one. So this was a YouTube comment after our The Last of Us episode 1 episode, and he says, "Good podcast this week. I picked up Sucker Punch because of DJ and his review. Only watched the theatrical cut. And when Steve mentioned the extended, I had to go watch it again with his perspective. I bought it for $5, I assume, at a local store. I go to all the time for used movies." He didn't say what he thought of the director's cut, though. So hopefully,
think
if he's listening, hopefully he enjoyed it.
I had to
Or
go
was he
watch it
watching-
again. Oh yeah, he didn't say. So, but yeah,
Okay.
it's definitely
Such a
it's
good-
a completely different movie.
It is. It is, definitely.
So good, so good. Next one.
Okay. This is
Daniel?
from Daniel88_cave. YouTube comment on also from the Last of Us episode last week. It says, I almost want to say that I am sorry for not finding your channel before now. This is right up my alley. Good work. Now I have a lot of catching up to do.
Yep. And I
Don't,
replied.
don't feel bad as
Nope.
long as you find it.
Yep. That's what's great about, like, they're all recorded. They're there. And
Right.
people have been on the show. They say that to me. People have written and say that to us. And you're like, don't feel bad. It's not like we're on billboards everywhere and you're ignoring us.
Right.
It's like when you find it's
I'm glad you
literally
found
like,
us at all.
Exactly. That's what I said. I'm like, it's like, hey, great that you found us at all. It's like
Right.
you found something you didn't even know existed. That's the point. It's like, it's not like I don't know. It's not like you all of a sudden found Star Wars, right? Like, what's that? It's like, no, you found the needle in the haystack, buddy. Thank you. Appreciate it. And the last one, figures, Vibe Installs. I want a hoodie. How can I get my hands on one? You got merch? And it's funny he says that. I thought he was going
I want a hoodie too.
You live in Texas.
And a glass.
Oh, yeah. I still have your glass. I have a lot of stuff for you.
I'm on the show. I don't have a hoodie.
I know. Yeah, you can. I sent them. I think I sent them the link too on YouTube. I said thanks for asking. But yeah, just go to TeePublic. Links are always links are always in the show notes for all of our merch on TeePublic. So we got hoodies over there. We got Steve sitting there like, I got a Maverick shirt on.
Yeah,
I'm on the show. Hey,
when are we going to start signing this stuff?
I got you guys personal emails, so I'm working on the rest. Okay, I mean it's all coming out of me. Well, we actually do have a budget now because we're getting some money in. So, all right,
It's just a matter of time before we get the "Hello, my name is" badges. Just so we've got them there.
Exactly. So, but yeah, you can go to TeePublic. Links are in the show notes for any merch, sweatshirts. I originally designed our sweatshirts in black, picked the black, but I prefer it in navy blue, but you can get whatever color you want. I think somebody bought a green one once. But yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I actually liked it. I've said it. It's been a while. We don't talk about this stuff. I'm not very good at generating anything other than headaches. But I just thought of that.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, it's when I wear mine all the time when I go out, and I actually wear it out more there than I do here. And it's people like, home theater. You're into home theater? You just pulled the pin, buddy.
Right.
So, I love that line from 525. It's so great. I just pulled the pin and you're ready to blow, aren't you? Yup. So yeah, check it out. You're gonna get a lot of comments for it and eye rolls. Oh no, because people don't realize what they're doing. It's fantastic. So all right, that's the last of the listener comments for this week. I think that was good. It was good. It was good. And that'll do it for this week. No. All right. Coming soon. Let's get to that. It's a shame. You guys can't hear the sounders, but everybody like in the stream can hear it. I can hear it. And you guys are just like, DJ's just dancing away.
Yep.
All right.
Just try not to talk over them.
I know. So next Tuesday, January 31st, we have Dawn of the Dead from 2004 coming in 4K. That hasn't been released before, Steve?
Not in 4K. Okay. No.
Okay.
And apparently, the pictures that I've seen of the comparison, it is very nice. So that's one I'll be importing. I can't wait for that. Zack Snyder.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Really good.
Wonder if it'll be variable aspect ratio.
All in slow motion.
Yeah.
With a black and white
frame for frame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have from 1969, The Italian Job in 4K. Actually looking forward to that. That'll be a good one.
Is that very popular over there? Because I always think of it as a really British movie that's massive here. I didn't know if it traveled that well.
Yeah, in my mind, it didn't become popular for me until the one came out over here, and then I knew there was another one, right? So I didn't grow up knowing about it. I didn't know, didn't really, never struck a nerve with me. But then when the movie came out over here, you're like, oh, okay. And yeah, this one, I actually like this one better.
Yeah, I mean, it's
same with Thomas
British
Crown Affair.
Chips.
Didn't know that,
Yeah, okay.
It had an original. And that one, the Thomas Crown Affair, the original, I believe, took place in Boston. In obviously the second one doesn't, but so yeah, that's probably more my ignorance.
It's an English classic. It is absolutely the film that on a bank holiday here, a public holiday, they put on TV, all the time, and people watch it and just love it. So and that's no sign of a release here. So that's another one I'm going to import because it does look good. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Who was that said that? Let's see. Oh, Van Gool says those hoodies are nice and warm. I love mine. Thanks, buddy.
He found T Public.
Review.
He found T Public. There we go. Now we got review. They're nice and warm. See?
There you go.
He probably lives in Hawaii. Of course it's warm.
Aruba.
There you go. All right. From Beyond from 1986. Never heard of it.
Ooh.
Do you know that? It looks like a
horror film. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's an H.P. Lovecraft style body horror.
Yep.
Yeah, it's great for back in the 80s. I haven't seen it since.
Oh, okay. So that's coming in 4K. Another version of Event Horizon Steelbook, I believe, is coming. That's already been out, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's great disc. It doesn't need a Steelbook.
Yeah,
we've just come out.
You're just going to run it over anyways.
Well, yeah, it's flat already. It's not like
you don't want the cardboard. Why do you want steel?
Exactly.
And we also have Crimes of the Future coming in 4K from 2022. What's that? That one's decal releasing. Yeah,
unfamiliar.
So Viggo Mortensen, Leah Savageddus, and Kristen Stewart.
Okay.
Do you know that one, Steve?
Yeah,
no.
Okay. No,
I like Viggo, and I know Kristen Stewart. I don't know this Leah Seydoux.
Leia Seydoux.
Leia Seydoux. She was in. She's in James Bond.
She was in the.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's his
and,
girlfriend. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, okay. I probably know her if I saw her then. You know me with
Yeah.
names. George.
Yeah.
Brock. Exactly. I can't remember who I just talked to. Never mind an actress. All right. That'll do it. That's coming up next Tuesday, the 31st, January 31st. All right. We ready? Finally get into the milk at the back of the store.
Yeah.
Ready to live
Just-
vicariously through us? What am I missing,
before we
Steve?
do that,
Okay.
just before
I'll
we
hold
do
off
that,
before I,
I
hit
mean,
my
I've-
sounder.
I've got the shirt on.
Yeah, you do.
Do you want to very quickly talk best pictures in the Oscars? Because they were announced today.
I was hoping you would
Do you want
bring
to really
that
quickly
up.
do that?
Yeah, let's do
Yeah,
it.
hence the shirt.
Right now.
Now, we're not going to talk all of them.
I got the
Good for you.
Batman. on.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. There you go. And apparently,
Yeah, Arkham
Arkham Games
Comics
and
over
Comics
here.
has been nominated for.
Yeah, because I don't know. I haven't seen the list. I don't even know what's on it. So.
Yeah.
Because we are going to say there is a glaring omission here of a film that we thought, well, in fact, there's two, but a film certainly that we as a trio would have put on there, I suspect.
The Northman.
RRR.
Yeah.
Best Picture. It's nominated for Best Original Song, and that's it.
Wow.
It has been snubbed in every other category. Not visual effects, not in original screenplay, not in Best Foreign Language Film. Nothing.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah. Best
I
foreign
don't
language
understand it.
film. How is not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Was that a
visual effects.
2022 movie?
Yeah. It
was?
came out in
Well,
the
it got
end of the summer,
nominated
wasn't it?
for-
Tail end of the summer.
Okay.
what
yeah,
the
it
heck?
got
It
nominated.
got nominated for
it's been
Best
been
Original
snubbed.
Song,
It has
so.
been snubbed. But
Yeah.
yes, the other one though, John, to be fair, is The Northman. That's been snubbed as well. Although only DJ and I will think it should be best film.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll just do best picture, shall we? Because obviously there's loads, and we'll be here all night. So okay, now 5 of these I've seen of the 10, and I suspect it's the same with you guys as well. Okay, so we've got All Quiet on the Western Front. Nice to see that getting some love. Avatar: The Way of Boredom. Sorry, Water. Avatar: The Way of Water. Yeah, we've got that one. I'm a bit of bias. We've got The Banshees of Inisherin, which I haven't seen yet.
I haven't either.
That is on Amazon Prime, I think it is, or it was.
It's on one of the streamers because I have
Yeah,
it saved to watch. I think it's HBOMax here. Actually.
Oh, okay. I think we've got it on Amazon. I think I might be wrong. We've got it on Blu-ray now, anyway. So either way, we've then got Elvis, which is nice. Quite surprised to see that on there. Actually, I mean, it's a great film. I really enjoyed it, but I'm surprised it's broken through like that. Right. We've then got the one that we were expecting, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Mm-hmm. So we've got that. The Fablemans. Is this the point where we chuckle? We're supposed to laugh every time we mention the Fable. There we go. Brilliant. Right, good.
Right.
Just to confuse some of the listeners.
There you go.
A film called Tar, which I haven't seen. I don't
Tilda
know
Swinton,
what that one.
I believe.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Have you either of you guys seen
No,
that?
I haven't seen
No.
it.
No, I don't know that one. A little film, something called Top Gun Maverick. I don't know. I don't know if any of you've seen that. I'm not sure. But isn't that interesting though? Best film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that a bit mainstream for the Oscars?
I'm surprised that makes the
There's
list.
how many nominees are there total?
10.
10.
So 2
That's
more.
why.
And
It's I
well,
think,
yeah, the long list.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
You
I
don't think it could win?
no. And
really?
I'm not a bigger fan. There's no bigger fan, I think, of Maverick.
No,
than
it'll
me.
be like Tar, probably.
Right. I
You know,
mean,
something
honestly,
or-
when you're getting into the Oscars, I wouldn't even be able to. I'll love it if it does, but I can't I couldn't justify that.
There doesn't seem to be any momentum for it. You don't see crews out doing press for it going,
Right.
vote for us. I mean,
Right.
there's not been any trade magazine adverts for it.
Yeah.
I think they're just rewarding the box office, aren't they? And just sort of showing, look, it's,
And it gets
we know people like it.
Right. And it gets to get onto the box cover, like Oscar nominated for this and it won for whatever it might win for. But it gets it on there. And I think that's one of those things why they did increase it so that it gets more exposure for other movies that wouldn't normally get there. But I honestly don't know why they ever increased it because it's like, who was outside the pick that would have been picked, right? Whenever you pick, I know it's an honor being nominated, but
It went from 5 to 10 so they could include more movies.
Right.
Like
Yeah, more box
Top
office
Gun
hits.
or Batman,
Yeah.
because otherwise it would just be 5 movies that nobody's seen,
right.
and then you have all these movies that made $2 billion. So they raised it to 10 just so they could put, because otherwise
It creates
Avatar
buzz.
never makes that list. Maverick
Right.
never makes that
Yeah.
list. You know,
Yeah, quite.
it's always movies that nobody's seen before.
Right.
So I think that's why they did it.
And we've got two more then that I don't think either of us have seen or any of us have seen. Triangle of Sadness sounds like a lovely movie, and then Women Talking, which seems I don't know, never heard of it.
I don't know if you could
So-
get me to that one.
And I've only seen
No
3
offense,
of those.
but
I've seen 5. So All Quiet on the Western Front, John, you've seen that?
yeah.
I saw that. I saw
Avatar,
Maverick
Elvis.
and Elvis.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 that I've seen.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. Because Everything Everywhere All at Once, you were good.
I haven't
Have you
seen
picked
yet.
that up yet?
No,
Yeah, you were
I
going to pick it
haven't
up.
seen
I
that.
think.
I like that
Yeah.
one. I think
I still haven't
Yeah.
picked it up. I
So
need to
okay,
watch
so
it.
so we've all just been made honorary members of the Academy. You've got 1 vote. What are you going for of that list of 10 then? Don't say Triangle of Sadness, Deej.
no. I'm honestly
you choosing?
everything everywhere.
One choice.
Out of
Western
the
Front.
ones that I know, and now I'm going to say Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think the writing in that, what they did with that, with the picture and the variables and that movie is just Oscar wise. I think that's the most creative of the bunch that I know of. Now there's a few there, obviously, that I haven't seen, and maybe some of them maybe as a little more hoity-toity or whatever you want to call it. But for me, and I love all the, I loved Elvis. But I think there's different reasons Elvis could win other ones, like performance-wise and stuff.
But if it's your vote, you're not going for Maverick?
I told you,
Your
I couldn't
vote?
justify that.
Your
Nope.
what?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Oh,
Nope.
but see, yeah, I'd
Because-
be torn.
Can I tell you why?
Yeah, please, of course.
It's
your
Top
show.
Gun. It's Top Gun. They did
Yeah.
a fantastic job of sucking you back in and giving you the same exact movie that we had before. It took 35 years to do it, but when they did it, they pulled you back in, and it's the nostalgia. An 18-year-old seeing this movie now loves it because it's just as good. It's a blockbuster. It's fun to see, but it doesn't pull at them. You need that other one to pull off what they pulled off, to pull at the heartstrings that it pulled on for us, right? That to me is it's an amazing feat, but what they did with Everything Everywhere All at Once I think that's an original movie. They took that and they took a concept that's going on elsewhere in other genres, and they're like, we're going to make a movie out of this, and we're going to blow away everything that's been done that should have been done better, right? That to me, that's a feat. That
Yeah, I see. Yeah, and so you're going with All Quiet on the Western Front, John? Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
So-
Well, again, because my vote's kind of compromised because I've only seen 3 of the 10. So,
Yeah, but you're not telling me that most of the Academy members have seen all 10 of those, are you?
no,
well, I think they have to. I think they get screened.
They don't have to, but they.
Well,
I'm
you
sure they
do
get
your due
screened. It doesn't mean
diligence.
they've watched them.
Yeah, I don't know, but
yeah.
of the 3 that I've seen, I'd choose All Quiet on the Western Front. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you see, I'd have to George Santos this. I'd have to have 2 names because I think I'd have to go for both of those. I think I'd Everything Everywhere All at Once because it is the best picture. It's the best movie. There is stuff done on that has never been done before, including fighting with marital aids, which we talked about before. Teach
Which they're
there
big
is certainly-
fans of at the Oscars.
Yeah,
They hold up
well,
Oscar
quite
and they
indeed,
wave it
indeed.
around.
Yeah, well, they're very uptight. That is true. And also, I've never seen rock acting that wasn't from The Rock before,
Right.
Which I think is pretty amazing. I mean, there is some stuff in that stands the test of time, and you'll look back on this 20 years from now and go, "What a movie!"
Right.
But having said that, All Quiet on the Western Front is is a moving, epic film told with scale and sweep. And there's some beautiful shots in that. We talked about that, didn't we? I mean, it's been nominated for Best Cinematography as well. And I mean, there are some absolutely stunning shots in that. But there's nothing, I think, in there necessarily we haven't seen before.
That's what separates it from me.
Private Ryan, I don't think you look back on
Or
that
the original
in
All
20
Quiet
years.
on the Western Front.
Well, yeah, indeed. But you won't look back on this, I don't think, in 20 years and go, "What a film." I think you'll be like, which one was that again? Was that the one with the one shot? or was that the one with the, was that the Sam Mendes one? I think the thing. So probably if I was pushed, it would be Everything Everywhere All at Once, because it's just not been seen before.
Right.
But they are both great. And I mean, obviously, I haven't seen The Fabelmans. I don't know whether that's any good. I've been subjected to Avatar. That wouldn't be on my top 100 at the moment.
Yeah.
So I think, but yeah, interesting though, isn't it? But RRR is the big
That's a
is a
shame.
big
Yeah, that's a
omission
big
there,
miss.
even more than the Northman. I mean, I would have the Northman on there, of course. But yeah, RRR. I'm surprised. There's not been a lot of talk about it either. There's not been a lot of consternation that it's been snubbed. So, which is worrying and unfortunate, because it's an experience, that film, isn't it? If nothing else, it is an experience.
Yeah.
I wonder if Academy members, again, we talked before, are not seeing it on proper screens and proper cinemas, be it screenings or at home, and
Watching
so
it on their iPad.
it's diminished.
Yeah.
Oh, I fancy doing that. That's terrible. People doing that.
So
I say that knowing that one of my ones on my list is from an iPad.
Every year, I always go to and usually try to buy all of them. Let's talk about best sound while we're at it, and Steve can stay up.
Look, I'm off tomorrow. You go for it.
Nominees for best sound: All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, The Batman, Elvis, and Top Gun: Maverick. John, I think you've seen all of them except for Avatar, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, best sound, I would go with Maverick.
On that list, I think I would.
On that list.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I'm surprised really that Elvis is on there. I'm a bit surprised Elvis is there.
Yeah,
Elvis is
there are some great scenes. But
it's some great scenes. But yeah, it is. I would have gone. I could take Elvis out and put in Everything Everywhere All at Once. I could put in RRR in there because the way they manipulated sound.
The Northman could be there. Yes.
I would probably. That's the only one that I would take out, though. All of those other ones, they all. I mean, and I love Elvis, and I love the sound in it. I'm not upset that it's there, but you're right. There are some. The Northman's a fantastic one. But again, are these people? Are they watching it appropriately? Are they doing it like? For me, best sound is it's the Batman, because of what they did throughout that movie. And Maverick, again, I go back to, it's a clearer version of Top Gun, and it is really good. And you guys know I had so much fun with that, watching it, and then listening to people email me and let me know what they heard and saw in different scenes. It is a fantastic sound mix. But the Batman, the creativity, you have 3 hours of silent scenes, of the Batmobile, of the creativity that they did. For me, the Batman is up there with like Jurassic Park, the original ones, and the sounds how they created the dinosaur noises and stuff. And that I had as much fun with the Batman this past year that I did with Top Gun Maverick. And it was nice that they were staggered like that. But
see, I've got a theory on that, Deej. I think the theory is you've had Top Gun for so long that to you it feels like it was last year's Oscars.
I know. Well, I've had the Batman.
Somebody else that have had it recently.
Too. Yeah, I know. You guys got it in November. But
Halloween.
That one. Yeah, exactly. I got it in August, so I got it 2 months earlier.
Yeah, I know.
But I got the Batman. That was right around the time I got the Kaleidoscape too, and I got the Batman. I think maybe 4 weeks early. Well, instead of 2 months, I got it 1 month. But it's still. I mean, we haven't heard Avatar at home yet, so
no,
I can't really give that a good judgment. But I don't anticipate that being like, oh wow, that. I mean, I just think that, and then All Quiet on the Western Front. I think that's a great sounding track. We talked about that, how great it was, but it's still, again, like you said before, Steve, it's, been there, done that. I mean, 1917 and
Yeah. I mean, there's not many
It's a great movie.
sequences in there that you've never seen
Haven't,
before.
right.
And I mean, you're even looking at things like Warhorse and movies like that, where this has been done, and hell, look, even Sucker Punch has a go at that.
Yeah.
as a World War II, World War One trench sequence in it, obviously cyberpunk kind of area. But isn't it interesting? I can't think of a previously, and this may be my ignorance of the Oscars, but I mean, 4 out of the 5 nominees for Best Sound we've been able to hear in our theaters before the Oscars happen. Now, that's quite unusual, isn't it? It seems that way. We've been able to experience them in what we would say is better than most cinemas, commercial cinemas. So it's quite nice to be able to give or have a view based on watching it in a proper thing. Yeah, quite. But of course, one of those, of course, is a streaming one anyway, which is All Quiet on the Western Front. And then the other 4, 3 of them are on home video already, and then Avatar, of course, not yet. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
But there we go.
Yeah.
I'm actually quite looking forward to the Oscars this year. Normally, I can't stand it. I wonder if Will Smith will, turn up again.
I think, isn't he banned like 10 years?
I mean,
or
I'll tell you
Banned.
what.
Yeah.
Talking about the Oscars very quickly. One other film, of course, which Apple were absolutely banking on was Emancipation, and I mean, they were expecting that to be the big Oscar film for this year.
What
and
are you
that
gonna
has
do?
Disappeared without trace. Yeah, I mean,
they knew that hit the floor when
Yeah.
there were
there
two
were
hits
2
that
sounds.
night.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we both. Hey, Steve, look at that. We're getting it.
Yeah.
You see that? We're thinking the same
Well,
thing.
actually, you might say there was a hit and then there was a miss.
Yeah,
the miss
right.
being the movie.
Yeah,
because
like,
it wasn't.
Apple just.
But that's just disappeared because you guys haven't watched it, have you?
I haven't seen it,
no
no.
one's talking
And actually,
about
that's
it.
why I won't watch it.
Oh,
Honestly,
really?
because of him.
Oh,
yeah. He.
Well, you weren't a big Will
Blotted
Smith
his
fan
copybook.
before that.
I'm
were
not
you?
a fan. No, I don't like him
Yeah.
anyways, and that just really put me off of him. So.
I mean, it is a good film. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
I don't think it's up there with the others, but it's interesting how it's just disappeared. If you were the financiers of that film, and Apple bought it, of course, so they would have spent a fair bit of money on that. You can imagine them just thinking, well, that was a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money to just throw away because one guy couldn't handle his drink and couldn't handle his wife and decided
Right.
to sort something out. Crazy, isn't it? But anyway, there we go.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
I thought I'd bring them up because it was
That was
today,
good.
and I've got the shirt on, so I thought
I
we've got
know,
to deal with the
and
Oscars.
so do I. It's funny. I was hoping. I saw Twitter today that you talked about it. Other people were talking about it. I'm like, yeah, we should talk about that tonight. So, all right. Now are we ready to get to our real HD
Yeah, go
experiences?
on
Yeah.
then.
Sure.
If we must.
We're only 2 hours in.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Steve, why don't you go first?
Oh, okay. I've got to be careful with this because it's late here. Okay. So I've got to be careful. Right. All right. Let me just start with the name of the film first. So Halloween Ends in 4K. Now, we'll very quickly deal with the film because it's the home cinema experience we really need to talk about. And boy, do we need to talk about it. So the film is obviously the third one of the 2018 Halloween trilogy.
Yep.
It's I saw it in the cinema. Sorry, I saw it in Cinema George, in fact, on a screener, and it was all right. It's the weakest of the 3 by some distance to me when I first saw it, and I saw it again, and I still feel that way. It's all right, but they went a very different way with it, and I'm not entirely sure that they should have done, or they should have made it longer to make the story twists make sense. That's that out of the way. Right. So
Now the whole video experience.
So the 4K video is what you'd expect. It's a universal disc. It's very polished. It looks great. It's solid. The blacks are black. The brights are bright, and it looks great. It's fine. There's no problems with that at all. Where we need to really talk about it is the sound. Now, okay. So let me just very quickly explain this. So, okay. Now, in most horror films, when someone is stabbed with a knife or something like that, you get a little squelchy noise, and that's kind of the end of it, isn't it? And it's a bit icky and it's a bit unpleasant. In real life, of course, and I've never stabbed anyone and I've never been stabbed, but I've dealt with enough clients and I've seen enough videos and read enough statements to know that when people are stabbed with a knife, they very often don't know it's happened until they see the blood. They just talk about it's like feeling a punch. You just don't feel it. The nerve endings go dead. Now, in this film, the bass levels in this film are ridiculous. Okay, and I say that, and that is an understatement, because there are
For
a number
people
of
not watching on
sequences in this.
YouTube, my face is, I'm just like, I'm all
Yeah,
excited.
have you seen it? Sorry, I should have asked, guys.
No,
Have you seen it? Yeah,
no,
okay,
I
right,
saw
okay.
the movie.
I've seen the movie.
Yeah,
but I
but
haven't
not
seen
not
it
the
in my
disc.
whole-
Okay, so it's
No.
the disc I'm talking
the
about. Because in
disc.
the movie, in the when I saw it previously, this was not there. Now there are sequences in this where, and I'm spoiler free, but people die in this, believe it or not, and there are sequences in this where I'm trying hard to explain it in a way that conveys what I'm talking about. But imagine where, and I'm going to be careful with my microphone here, careful with your ears if it's turned up. Anyone listening to this at any volume, imagine where someone is stabbed and the bass just goes, and again and again and again and again. Imagine the entire room moving in any direction, and I mean physically. All right, time to put up the child gates again, John, for your subs.
Right, for my subs.
Yeah. It is ludicrously bass heavy. I mean, as I said to Todd Anderson when we had a little chat about it on Twitter, this should be called Godzilla Ends, not Halloween Ends, because it is crazy. And it happens a couple of times, and then there is a march at the end where just someone goes bananas with the bass levels. It just goes, right, turn it up to, there's a phrase we use here, 11-ty stupid. Just turn it up to just ridiculous volume. And it overwhelms the track. It overwhelms the score. It is ludicrously bass heavy. Now, Todd, Mr. Bass Hunter himself, he looked at it after I put this thing up about saying, like, apologies if the southwest of England, if there'd been a, if it was not an earthquake, it was Halloween Ends. Yeah. And he himself looked at it. You're right. What he did? He's taking photos. So he himself said it was distracting. It was just too much.
Too much.
Ultrasonic frequencies. It is as low as it goes, and he was like, "It's crazy." And so what I've said to him is, it's either one of two things. It's either one, a mistake. And this is, we were talking earlier about theatrical mixes being changed for home. And this has been, someone has just put on there the wrong mix and just stuck one on there where the bass levels are 5 times as high as they should be, because it overwhelms everything. This is not a thing. So it's either a mistake or this is the filmmakers going, well, this is a bit crap, isn't it? The film's not that great. Let's just make this a ridiculously bass-heavy film and hope that that's what people engage with. But it ruins the experience. It's not one of those where you go, oh, yeah, great. It's like Lucy, or it's like, any one of those movies we've talked about before where the bass levels are, King of Monsters, where the whole room is going. This is overwhelming. Your subwoofers will be screaming. And again, Todd said, Todd put a warning out to say, if you're running your subwoofers hot, be careful, because it will damage them. It will actually cause them problems. Now and I agree with him 100%. I think that is absolutely the case. This will kill certain people's subs. If you are bass headed, you've just got it whacked up, it will kill them. Well, so it won't be Halloween Ends, it'll be subwoofer ends. So there's your warning, guys.
If you're running hot past I don't think that you can. And I think Todd would say the same thing. If you're running hot, you'd have to be running past the capability of the subwoofer, right? So, I don't think, in my room, I have two PB2000s. They're turned up to 2, right? But say I wanted to run them hot, and I turned it up to even 3, right? That would be huge. That's a 50% increase in power in a very small room. This isn't going to hurt them. It can't, because it's not possible, I don't think. It's going to sound awful in my room, but the subs should be fine, right? It's not like I have them turned up to 10 where I'm going to damage them.
No, well, quite.
Right?
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
But this will...
It's going to hurt you before it hurts them.
Yeah. Well, there were vibrations in my room that I've never encountered before with anything else.
Not even with Lucy?
And not even close. Not even close. It was uncomfortably loud. Perhaps imagine you're opening of Edge of Tomorrow, and instead of it, 2 seconds and it's gone, imagine that for 2 hours.
Right.
And it's just
so are you recommending it, or are you telling us to avoid it?
No, I'm not. No,
Really?
I'm not. I'm telling, I cannot in good conscience recommend this movie even to base heads, because I think
Really?
the danger is that you are going to be trying
now
to
I
push
gotta
it. It is
experience it.
ridiculous. I know, yeah, I know, but that's what Todd thought too. And even Todd, again, if you don't take it from me, take it from him.
Oh, I know.
He was going to do a Base Hunters episode on it, and was showing a little bit of it. He actually showed a little clip of it,
Right.
and just saying, yeah, this is distracting. You know, it's just too much. And if someone like a Base Hunter can say it,
Right.
then you know it's extreme. It is too much. It overwhelms the mix, and
All right,
it
I'm in.
ruins the movie. Yeah,
Come on.
I mean,
Look at that.
Then give it a go, but
This
just don't
reminds
say
me
you
of
weren't
that game.
warned.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this reminds me, remember the thing at the arcade or at a bar where they had the two steel poles coming out of it, and you had to you put your 50 cents in and it would electrocute you, and how long you could hold on, but everybody would be like, and there'd be a countdown, be like, like, that's what this reminds me of. Like, how long can you sit in that room? Let's go.
Yeah. And by the way, it's like it from the very beginning. There's an old school track, like a music track that starts off, and that's already got a bass line that isn't as severe as it goes,
Now-
but it's already more than you'd expect.
Do you watch at reference? You don't watch at reference, right?
No, God, no. The
And
room's not
and
big
you're
enough to do
saying,
that.
now I got to do it. Now I got to do it
Oh,
at
dude,
reference level.
Just don't say you weren't warned.
Oh, I
and,
know.
You know, anything you've got on your back shelves that is valuable, you might want to wrap it in bubble wrap and you know, just screw it down. It's not a comfortable or enjoyable experience. It really isn't. And I mean, that's my view. Obviously, maybe
right.
that, you know, mileage may vary, but just
I was
don't
going to
say you
save
weren't
this
warned.
for October, but
Yeah.
now you've piqued my interest.
Okay, Todd, if you're listening, can you just DM DJ and tell him that you've also warned him? Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway, that's that one. Oh, my goodness.
Excellent. All right. I was looking at my list. Why don't you go, John? With it's mine.
Yeah, well,
Why don't you wrap up your Game of?
yeah, I was
Thrones
going to say,
experience?
I finished Game of Thrones. I don't have anything else to say about it, really. I've talked about it 3 weeks in a row. The only thing I will say, of course, the infamous Long Night episode, season 8, episode
Come on.
3.
Yeah.
It looked fantastic. The 4K disc, the projector, clear, great detail, looked fantastic. Again, I've talked about it for 3 weeks, so sounds great, looks great.
Yeah.
That's the home theater experience of it. As far as the story part of it,
Yeah.
as I spoke about last week, I really, really went into this week wanting to like the end of Game of Thrones, and I couldn't do it.
Really?
I couldn't do it. Yeah. The back half of season 7 and all of season 8 is just such a complete mess to me, and really ruined the show for me. So
okay.
I can't say that I liked it. I wanted to. It's like and I just like I said, I still have a lot of problems with the way they ended that show. But home theater wise, it's top notch. Like it can't be beat. So.
John, can I ask, how many faulty discs did you have in the set?
I had 2 in the set. So I did get the replacement set middle of last week, and I was able to replace both of the discs. I rewatched, so I had to rewatch 6 episodes that I had already just watched, but I was able to put together a full set, and I have a good set. So
that's
but yeah,
encouraging
there were 2 discs that were really bad in my original set. So yeah,
That's not good.
Yeah.
No, I know, John. You said you keep 3 weeks in a row, and you've been talking like, how many people can say they got through Game of 8 seasons
well,
in 3
again,
weeks?
I was on a mission, you know that because of those discs.
But that's an accomplishment, man.
Yeah.
And
House of the Dragon.
we haven't gotten to that yet. And you watch other stuff. It's like, I'm like, I feel like I accomplished something because you didn't even know I started Wednesday, and I started it and finished it. And it's like 8 episodes. And I'm like, look at me. It's like, whoa.
Well, like I said, I had a specific return window that I had to manage with that.
Yeah.
So I would have spaced it out a little bit more and maybe done like a season a week or something, but I had to get through it.
It is fantastic. And like you said, the Long Night is...
and
that's
was
demo material, it's reference, but what's fun about
really,
that
really
one
good.
is a lot of people have seen it And if you can bring them in and your TV's well calibrated, you go, this is what
Right.
it was supposed to look like, right?
Right.
It's like that's what's fun about that one.
Yeah.
So nice.
And then we'll get to that again when we talk about House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
Because same
So.
same type of experience. Although I won't spoil it because I know Steve still hasn't seen it. So nope, it's no problem.
Hey, you can just talk about the scenes.
Yeah. I'm just going to talk about the theater part of it.
Speaking of scenes, let's talk about the Batman. It's just fantastic. I'm going to watch it again, probably in a month or so, or 2 months really, for the first anniversary. John and I talked about it when it first came out in the theaters, and it's like the comparisons between this and the Nolan series. It's kind of not fair because this is just one movie. Nolan's like John and I said it when it came out. We're like, well, Nolan's like, Batman Begins is really good. And then The Dark Knight is that's an epic, that was our first experience of like, holy crap, a comic book movie can be this good. Right. And then Dark Knight Rises kind of was a little dip from there. It's hard to meet that same plateau. So where you have three movies that aren't of equal quality and then you look at this one movie and go, wow, is this good? And it is. I like it better than the Dark Knight. But the home theater, and that's, to me, this is one of those movies that like John going through Game of Thrones again. There's so much to behold in this movie that while you're watching it, it's like each and every scene, like the scene when Catwoman, Selina's going into the library for the first time, that you're probably 40 minutes into the movie or whatever. And it's just like noticing the library, because now when you're watching it, I don't know, this is over 5-6 times I've seen it. You're watching for different things, and to see what Matt Reeves has done here and like in the background and we'll get into it when we talk about, when I talk about Wednesday as well, the way that I feel like they were shot very similarly, and where it's shot very murky, right? And we've talked about that. And like Jeff from HD Report said, it was like, instead of things being black, it's more like a chocolate black. But it's a palette that he chose throughout that movie that really works, but it makes you look for, it's like, it feels like it doesn't have the detail, but it does. And you throughout that movie. And like, I remember thinking, John, one of the things you didn't like when we saw it was like, he didn't like the collar on his suit.
Still
and
don't.
I still like, and it's like, I watch it and I'm liking it more and more each time, because I felt like in some of the scenes, the explosions and stuff, and he ducks, and it's like, it actually had a purpose, and I'm looking at different things there. And then the leather, the detail you could see on his mask, which is like, where was the scene? Watch his face. His face actually gets bruised, and there's damage to him because he's fighting these people, and it's not a helmet. It's just that. So there's so much detail to take out of this, and then the cinematography that you get, and it's so enhanced by the HDR. And I've talked about it before, but that up on the the skyscrapers, whether he's meeting Gordon or he's meeting Selina or whatever, and you just so good. It's just the scenes when he's using his binoculars or whatever, and he's looking at people, and you could see the HDR, and really just pop in the contrast between what he's looking at and what's in there, and then the black around that's trimming the screen. It's so good. And then it nominated for sound, and like I said, that Batmobile scene, it's just it's 3 hours long. And the first time I saw it, I wanted it to be longer. And there are people that are like, it was too long, and I get it, but there's so much to it that it's worth watching over and over. And it's space it out. But I'm not saying, don't be a nut like me and watch it every week, a couple of scenes, but space it out. And when you come back to it, you'll notice things that weren't there before, or that were there, but they just didn't jump out at you. And there's so much to it that it's fantastic. So much fun going back through. So I don't know why it surprises me every time when I do stuff like that.
Yeah, same movie.
I'm shocked. I like the movie again.
Right.
But I am. So anyway, I'm like a goldfish. What? Huh? Oh, nice and new. All right. I'm interested to hear about your next one, Steve. What's up?
Okay, so this was my apology to my subwoofers after Halloween ends. So this is Train to Busan, the Korean zombie movie, which is released a number of years ago, 2016, I think, something like that. So this I've seen a couple of times before on Blu-ray, and the Blu-ray was decent. But this is the 4K disc, which has just been released by the same studio that did the Blu-ray, which is Well Go USA. Had to import it; it's not available here. And as I said, I wanted to give my subwoofers a cuddle after I'd put them through Halloween Ends, and this was my apology to them because they did need some, downtime and some R&R, not RRR. So this is. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Have either of you seen this film?
I have not.
No.
Okay, well, if you like the zombie genre, and I think you guys pretty much do, hence The Last of Us. Yeah. And I think, and if you don't mind, obviously the Korean subtitles, don't watch the dubbed version. It's in Dolby Atmos, and it's a really, really well told story. And it's it's about literally a father and his young daughter. They're getting on the train. The daughter is they've separated. They're estranged to her parents. And he is taking her to Busan, and whilst that's going on, zombies start attacking, and it goes from there. It's a really, really nice. It's a great film, really good film. It looks fantastic. The detail levels, the HDR in this the Blu-ray was really nice, but the 4K disc just takes it and pushes it that much further. I put some pictures up on Twitter, which I know Omar will appreciate. And it is razor sharp, ridiculously sharp. Looks amazing. And when you then get to what happens later in the film, which I'm not going to spoil for you guys because you really should try and see it, you get some lovely rumbles in the bass. There is some decent bass response here, which is controlled and muscular bass rather than the over the top Halloween Ends bass.
Yeah. IMAX bass.
Just going to keep going on. But yeah, quite. It's decent. It's really proper stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it's really well done. So you get the marriage of a really good story with a top razor sharp image and then a really decent soundscape as well. And this is one to put on your list, John, of ones to see. It really is that good.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good about it.
It's great. It's really, really good. And so I said, if you like your zombie genre, this is a really decent one in that oeuvre. And it is different to The Walking Dead. It is different to The Last of Us. It's not same old, same old. These are the fast-running zombies, which I think are always a bit more interesting and a bit more dynamic than shuffling ones. Never found them very threatening, frankly, because you could just walk at a steady clip away from them, and that's the end of that. So whereas these are the proper aggressive horde, more like World War Z style kind of zombies, and it's really well done. And it doesn't go where you think it will go. Things are different. It's not your typical, Hollywood kind of ending. I really recommend it. Don't worry about the sequel. There is a sequel, which is Train to Busan Presents Peninsula, which is not as good.
I've heard of that,
the first one, and I've got that in 4K disc as well. But this is one to put on your list of films to see. Yeah, it's good, really good, and a great disc.
All right, awesome. Sounds good. All right, John, let's hear about your...
Well, yeah, so next up, of course, we went right from Game of Thrones into House of the Dragon. So, again, without getting into story points for Steve, we went, right from episode 6 of Game of Thrones into episode 1 of House of the Dragon. We didn't even have a break in the afternoon. And... it's funny to say, but I noticed a marked increase in quality from House of the Dragon to Game of Thrones. So as much as I just went on for 3 weeks about how great Game of Thrones was, and it was, I guess just the years and the technology, have improved to the point where this was much better, visually and sound-wise. So again, this has an episode 7, that got the same kind of criticism as, the Long Night episode from Game of Thrones. Very, very dark. Although I would argue that this entire show is pretty dark. I mean, Game of Thrones was dark, but you got some different locales. Yeah. You went to Dorne, you went to Pentos. You went to different places in Game of Thrones that were bright. House of the Dragons pretty much takes place all in the same.
Right.
It's all King's Landing, and it's all Dragonstone, and so it's very dark. But episode 7 is darker than dark. But again, I had no problems with it. Like, it looked fantastic. Like you mentioned back when you watched it on the Kaleidoscape, I think the first time around, I did notice like the ruby red of her dress as opposed to just black. Like there's actually color there. There's detail that I was not able to see when I streamed it on HBOMax. But that stuff was all there on the disc. And again, and I've said it before, I don't even think I'm at optimal calibration on my projector. Like, I feel like it would be even better. Now, the Panasonic DVD player does a lot of tone mapping, so that I'm sure helped with some of that.
Yeah, squelches it a little bit. Yeah,
but I think even a proper calibration of the projector would have even brought it out more. But I had no problems. Like it. Yeah. I'm not going to say it was like watching it during a daytime scene, but it was markedly brighter and more clear than
dynamic.
what you see. Yeah, than what you see in a stream. And then again, just now it hasn't been as long. I hadn't seen Game of Thrones in many years. I just watched House of the Dragon 3 months ago or 4 months ago, but I still enjoyed it quite a bit. It is such a really good show. And the home theater experience was fantastic all the way through. So
I wonder, I love your comment on the, this feels better. Like it's a better quality than going from Game of Thrones was fantastic.
Right.
But I'm wondering if it's a combination of the two, because the technology has gotten better since they filmed Game of Thrones. But I think the mindset of when they're shooting these has improved as well. Like I've mentioned about like Netflix, for instance, like I think they shoot their movies knowing they're going to be streaming. So their lighting is appropriate so that they can show off streaming HDR, right? Now this, House of the Dragon was streaming, right? It wasn't on cable television, show. HBO, but it was predominantly meant for streaming. And are they taking that a little bit of that mindset of Netflix and shooting it with that better contrast and better ability so that you can, like, now these dark scenes that we're talking about in House of the Dragon, they came off better streaming than episode 3, season 8 did. That first time we saw that was horrendous because it was through cable, mostly through HBO. What was that on
HBOMax?
Actually, it
was HBO. It was HBO because it was 2019. I don't think it was HBOMax.
I thought that was right when HBOMax dropped. Maybe I'm wrong. Regardless,
I could be. I don't know.
Yeah, but it either way, when I experienced it, it wasn't as good. And when the 4K, when I got the 4K disc, you saw the big difference. But that idea that I'm wondering if that translates even better to disc, like you did with House of the Dragon. Like they shot this for streaming. It's got nice contrast inherently, but then when you go to the disc, you're like, wow, holy cow! And like you said, the detail that you're getting out of that, it's great.
Could be, like I said, I don't have the answer to that, but I noticed that it like right away it felt like better picture and better sound. Now again, if I had waited 2 days, 3 days, or a week, and then started it again, I might not have even noticed the difference. But like going right from one disc to the other, it did kind of stand out to me. So
All right. So, all right. With that, let's move along to another one. Better picture, better sound. I have never been more disappointed in Amazon than I was with this past week. Star Trek, the motion picture, the director's cut with the 4K it's been out in 4K before, but now we get the director's special edition, whatever it is, and Atmos. I ordered this when it came out. I pre-ordered it, and mine got lost in the mail, and then they're like, well, you can rebuy it here, but it was marked up because something happened in the supply chain or whatever. So I said, forget it, just cancel the damn. I'm not paying $45 for a movie that I've seen a
don't
million
even like.
times.
Yeah.
Right. And I should have paid the $45, whatever it was. John, the scene that we made fun of going to see the Enterprise.
Right, the Enterprise porn.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It is. I've watched it a couple of times, but the picture on this is so crisp throughout the movie, not just that scene.
Right.
But the Atmos on this, let's take that scene, for instance, like when we did it on chat and we were talking about it, we cried. We were laughing so hard at how bad we thought that scene was because it takes so long for them to get there. And you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Now you don't feel that way at all because the score is moving around your room. The sound, the picture is so dynamic. There's some blooms of like light and stuff coming off. At one point, I was laughing because I wish one of you guys was with me because I would have been like, why aren't they focusing on the Enterprise? Like, as they're going by it, they're looking out the window, and the camera is more focused on the bay that it's in because that's in the foreground, and you're seeing between the beams, the rafters or whatever, you're seeing the Enterprise. But it's giving you this depth perception that you're like, oh, wow. It's kind of funny because, like, if you were really filming it for real, you would be trying to see the Enterprise. So you'd be focused on that. And then the thing in the foreground would be out of focus. But they went in reverse, probably because of special effects and stuff. But all of that is there. And it's just it's an amazing disc. And I know I'm late to the party on this, but I'm late because I didn't expect it to be this good.
Yeah,
And
I'll definitely own all of these because I am a Trekkie. You know, I love Star Trek, but it wasn't high on my list of things to run right out and buy.
Yeah.
Partly because we kind of just watched it within the last year and a half or so and talked about it on the other show. But, you know, I've always liked the movie. Like, I think it's actually a smart movie.
It is.
But some of those scenes, were
they're
just
dragged out.
Painful. Yeah, they were painful.
Yeah. But they're not anymore. I'm telling you. You'll really get into it and and again, if I'm talking like you would have talked. Imagine how you're going to perceive this, right?
Right.
Have you seen this one, Steve?
No, I'm not. Whatever the opposite of a Trekkie is, I'm that. Having said that, Wrath of Khan is good. I like Wrath of Khan, but I'm one of the. Again, brace yourself, John. Okay, you know, strangling me through the through the thing. I prefer the J.J. Abrams trilogy to any of the original.
I mean, I
Trek
like
stuff.
them.
I
also like them, but
yeah. So it's heresy for most, I think, Trekkies to say that. But I like those, but I've never been, a Star Trek fan. I just, it's not for me. But as I said, Wrath of Khan, when I've seen it, I've always thought it's good, but I've never felt the need to own it. I wouldn't, it's not a film that I would watch again. I've seen it a number of times on TV. So yeah, it's all right though. It's fine. I accept it exists. It's
That's
fine.
good. All right, let's get to your. This one, I'm a little different. I have a different opinion on this one, Steve.
Yeah, Lightyear. Yeah. So this is Lightyear, as in Buzz Lightyear. Came out last year. This is one that I picked up on 4K disc, not having seen it, and thought I'll watch it at some point. And then this week, I saw a little bit of it a couple of months back on Disney Plus when someone I was with was watching it, and I kind of tuned out and was thinking, well, there's some quite funny bits. The little cat's quite funny. Socks was quite amusing, and I must admit, for days after, whenever I was asked a question by this person, I would begin with meow 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 meow, and then respond to it because I just thought it was very funny. He didn't, but I did. So anyway, so this is the first time I watched it properly, and I watched it in the theater room on a 4K disc, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really good. Now, I'm not the biggest Toy Story fan. I like them. I don't own them I've got them on Blu-ray. I don't own them in 4K, and I've never felt the need to replace my Blu-rays because, as I said, I like them. I'm not a big fan. But I thought this was really fun, and I liked a lot of the gags in this. I liked the way they did it. In terms of the home cinema experience as well, the video is not perhaps as vibrant as other animated movies that I've seen. I think there is a softness
Sonic
there
2.
at times. Quite. I mean, yeah, indeed. So there it's not as sharp as other animated movies, even from Pixar in 4K.
Yeah.
However, I don't think it was meant to. I think this is quite deliberately stylized that way. But I thought the audio was good. Again, decent bass on this. There was some fairly hefty bass with some of the ships taking off and landing and the robots moving around and all that stuff. Again, strong, controlled bass, not just ridiculously over the top Halloween End stuff. But it was really good, and yeah, I had fun with this, and I think again, if you like the movie, watch it on Disney Plus, and if you like it, then I would say pick up the disc. I had a good time with it, and since then I watched it day before yesterday, and again I keep saying meow 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 every time that I'm now asked questions because to me it's just funny, yeah, so it's I enjoyed it, and again it's you've seen it then, DJ, have you? Didn't think much of it, or
it didn't grab me. And I'm a big fan of the Toy Story series, right?
Yeah.
It's like that. I remember we saw my brother and I and my two sisters. We ended up going to see it Thanksgiving Day, the year it came out, and it was like we're a pretty artistic family, so we were pretty blown away. And we've, so that movie, what that did in the art world, what that did for movies, what that did, huge fan of Toy Story. For some reason, I was maybe because I came into this with more expectations, like I was really excited for it, and I just didn't feel like anything grabbed me. It's not horrible, but nothing grabbed me about it. Like you, even listening to your description about the picture and the sound, it's nice, but it's not like the sound. There's nothing in there like I was hoping for. Like you said, a little bit more bass or a couple of pans or something to make you go, wow, because you could have, it's animated. It's all animated, right? Sonic was mixed. There's so much more you could do, and it didn't. And again, it's not bad. I mean, the story's decent. It's a good movie. But it's not like, I was looking for more pow out of this, especially where you're trying to rejuvenate the franchise a little bit, right? And give a little bit of a backstory. I was hoping for a little bit more of a pop out of it, and I didn't really feel that way. It's like, I mean, it's decent, but nothing to write home about.
I suspect this is a little bit of movie by committee here, because there are different themes going on here. You've got themes of loss and this, how do I get the life back that I thought I wanted with that, and then ignore the life that I'm leading. And there is some attempt at pathos here with characters passing on and that kind of stuff. And when I saw that, I felt that was quite moving, but it's not Up. It's not, it's not Toy Story 3, the ending of that, which of course, it's not that. So I think it is lesser Pixar. I get that. And I think that's fair. It's up there with Cars 3, those kinds of movies where and Cars 2, actually, to be fair, movies that are okay, that are solid, but they're not going to blow your socks off, if you'll forgive the expression. Yeah. And it's not gonna blow you away. But I enjoyed it. I had more fun with it than I was expecting, and I'm very glad I own it, because I will come back to it and see it again. But yes, I agree. It's not revolutionizing the genre. But yeah, so lesser Pixar, I would say. And a lot of people would say that about The Good Dinosaur, but I've got reasons to absolutely love that film. Yeah. But nothing to do with the film. But I absolutely love it. So and I get that. So it's those kind of mid-tier Pixar movies. It's not bad, but it's not the height that they have reached with other movies. And that's fair.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. All right. Here's one. I don't think Steve's seen this either. What do you got there, Johnny?
Oh, me? So next up, I saw A Man Called Otto. This was in the theater. And honestly, this is only on the list because I went to the theater to see it. This is not a home theater experience movie. Like, there is nothing about this movie that is going to play necessarily in your home theater. But this is the movie that you want to watch if you want to make sure that your emotions are working and turned on. Because this thing
we had this conversation, John.
Yeah, this was excellent. Like, really, really good movie. Tom Hanks at his most Tom Hanks, like at his best. He was really, really good.
Tom Hanks is a good actor.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, just a great, heartwarming drama, but nothing home theater about it. I will buy this movie when it comes out at home because I'll want to see it again, but I don't expect to be able to talk about it on this podcast, ever again. But I since I went to the theater, I did want to mention it, and it's not being seen by a lot of people, so you should go out and see it. I thought it was really, really good. So,
and does it now? You see, I've only seen the trailers to it. It's not out here yet.
Okay.
But the only slight caution that I had from seeing the trailers was it looks a bit rote. Old guy on his own needs something to connect with. Cute pet comes along, and then he learns to love himself and everyone else around him.
There's a bit of that,
or is there more to it than that?
But there's more. There is more to it than that. I mean, there is a bit of that. Like it's formulaic to a certain degree.
I thought,
but there's some backstory.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little
with
bit,
less
again,
gangsters.
He's he's a guy that's closed off. I don't want to give away anything, but he's at the end of his rope. Like he's kind of closed off. He's given up for reasons that will unfold through the movie. And then yes, people are introduced into his life that he doesn't want in his life, but comes to So I mean, it's nothing revolutionary about it, but I thought it was well done. And like I said, there are some things in it that I did enjoy as far as his backstory and the way it unfolded and some of the mystery to it that kind of kept you guessing a little bit. Like I had a couple of theories that all turned out to be wrong, but that I was formulating through the movie as to why things were playing out the way they were. The payoff is good. And like I said, it's a feel good in a way. Like it's very sad also. So it's just
emotional ringer.
Yeah, it's a drama. It's a drama, and it's pretty emotional.
Have either of you seen A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood?
No.
Have you seen that?
For that reason.
I have seen it.
What did you think of that, John?
I also liked it as a kid that grew up with Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty inspiring, and I thought he did a great job there. So,
Now I didn't. I've seen it. I've got the 4K disc. I imported that again.
Okay.
And I did. Obviously, Fred Rogers never made it this side.
Oh,
of the
really?
pond.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
he wasn't your neighbor.
I was. No, quite. Yeah. Do you want to be my neighbor across the pond? But having said that, I was aware of him because I'd heard it spoken about in films, and we're broadly aware of it, so I knew kind of who he was. But I thought that film at times reached masterpiece level. Yeah. I mean, the one bit that got me, and obviously it's not a spoiler really, DJ, because it's not that kind of film,
right?
But the bit where he says, "I want you to take 60 seconds and think of all the people that loved you into being."
Yeah.
And then Hanks looks right down the lens, and the film goes quiet for a minute. Ugh. And I thought that was close to profound. Yeah. I really did. That right to my core. I thought that was incredible. And no other actor or no other filmmaker, I think, would have the guts to just stop the movie for a minute and just say, "Look at me, look at me, look at you." 60
seconds is a long time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, quite.
In the theater, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I thought that was, as I said, bordering on profound. I thought that was absolutely beautiful. What I didn't know is he'd actually done that on stage. He actually received an award and actually said that to the audience. And I didn't know that. I know it now, but it was fantastic. Well worth seeing, Deej. If you haven't seen it,
I know.
Again, it's
but again, pretty emotional.
Story. It is. But also nicely from a guy who genuinely seems to be a nice guy, rather than we see so many people presented as nice people in the the media, and then when you scratch below the surface, you realize they are very different, and yet he does not seem to be that way. So it was very nice. Anyway, off topic. Apologies.
No, that's on topic. No. It's movies. It's John, you want to tell them? We'll talk about what we talked about the other day, Stevie. Your book ended by the opposites right now.
Well, yeah, I say all that coming from a guy that, does not have emotion. Like, I am not an emotional guy, you know.
Right.
To get me to cry would be like trying to get blood from a stone. Like, it just doesn't happen.
And I'm a soaking wet sponge.
Right.
So, and that's what John and I talked about it last week or a few weeks ago.
When certain movies do hit me that way, like I find them very, very emotional, because it doesn't happen for me very. Like, I seek those things out.
Is there one
There's
that
a
always
couple.
does it? Ooh, can I have one then? Let me give me one. I want to know.
I know one.
Coda.
Coda. I was going to say Coda.
Oh, you see, I haven't seen it yet. Child of Deaf Adults, isn't it? I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
It's so okay. So worth seeing.
I texted this to DJ, but he hasn't responded. But I just imported the 4K Blu-ray.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
That only.
Okay, where
Oh,
from?
you texted me right now? Today?
No, before the show.
Oh,
Where did
I
that
have
come
mine's
from?
on Do Not
Where was that, John?
Started.
Italy.
Oh,
Italy.
okay.
Yeah, came from Italy.
Oh, wow.
It's the only
Okay,
place the
right.
4K disc exists. Yeah, I love it.
Do you know what? I will buy that after the show. I will get that because rather than see it on Apple, I think I will actually.
And actually,
I'll just,
loved the fact that it was like this is an Apple exclusive that came to 4K disc. So
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. I will order that.
know.
I'll get that. That will be good. So okay.
but
so
yeah,
that one does it.
this one gets me. Yeah, again for reasons I don't even know, just hits me every time I see it. You know.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a couple. This one that I just Otto was pretty moving for me.
Yeah.
May not resonate with anybody else, but for whatever reason they do for me. So.
Right.
I'd see, for me, what now, DJ, there'll be loads for you. What's the one that does it for you the worst? What is the one that just floors you? Sequence or film?
This is what John and I were talking about.
Yeah, I don't think he could even pick one.
I can't pick one. It's like it's Sally Struthers commercial, for God's sakes. I'm like, so like what John and I were talking about a couple weeks ago was like John like seeks these movies out because he's trying to
Connect
he's
emotionally.
seeking that emotion, right?
I do.
I am like driving down the road trying to avoid that emotion because like the weeks, months leading up to my daughter's wedding, I was having trouble getting to work and being like, oh, what am I going to do? And like, cause I'm a man, I'm supposed to be a man, you know, I'm not supposed to cry, blah, 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 blah. And well, how am I going to be on that day? Now you got John over here who's like, yep, I mean, him and I have done this show for over 4 years now, and many times I'm like, I've been on with you privately and otherwise, where I get emotional, and John's like, yep, that's who we, you just go. I avoid these things. Like my family gave me the movie Warrior, the two brothers, MMA fighters.
It's emotional ending for you. Yeah.
No kidding. I know that. It's like, and I have my best friend fights. He has his own gym. We've done MMA. It's like I do that stuff, and it's like I'd fight for anybody. I'll die for anybody. I'll do that. And like for me to think of that emotion and like, nope, I can't even step foot in there because I'm like that anyways. That's why I like give me a. We were joking, but it's like sitting down with a psychologist. Him and I sitting here just hashing this crap out, and it's like that's why I watch movies over and over. It's not gonna. I'm not gonna get emotional. I know what to expect. When it's like you say, like, what gets you? I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, anything.
What doesn't?
Exactly. And it's like I'm like,
It's the bit in Warrior, it's okay, Tommy, it's okay is the like flipping or I get that. With me, I mean a number of them do as well. I'm in the middle between you two, quite literally, as
quite
it turns out,
literally.
on the live stream. Yeah. But there are a number of them that does it. But the one that always springs to mind more than anything else, and there are a number of them, but the one that, again, another Tom Hanks film of all movies, is Forrest Gump.
yeah.
Which bizarrely the bit and it's the one. There are a couple of bits, but the one that I've got to look off screen. And I've had to do it a number of times when I watched it with other people. I've got to look off screen and I've got to concentrate on something else entirely. Otherwise, I will be in floods. And that is the scene with his son where he meets him for the first time.
Yeah.
And he just said, I mean, I can
you've
feel
mentioned
myself
that
doing that.
before.
Where he says to him, but is he smart or is he? And he taps his chest, and God, bloody hell!
Oh,
The
you
idea
mentioned that on
he
Twitter
knows-
like
DJ's
a month
crying
ago.
right
did.
now.
Yeah, no.
man,
I'm not even. I'll be able to get through it now. We were sitting in the living room. I read your tweet, and my wife looks at me and goes, "What the hell happened?"
DJ's crying.
I read your tweet because you're so right. That one scene that was, what was I watching? I can't remember the movie, and I was at breakfast with my wife and my neighbor. We're down the Cape. This is many years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And it was a movie about, I think it was, I don't know if it was movie or real life, but it was something like, what was the one with Richard Dreyfuss and his son? He was a musician and his son couldn't hear.
Mr. Holland's Opus?
Yeah. Was that the one where the son came in and he learned to hear or like say his dad's name or something like that?
Oh, do you know,
there
I'm
was
not sure.
something
that
like
was one
that.
to do with music, but I'm not sure if it's that one.
It was a moment where the kid came in and he had never spoken before. And I can't remember if it was a movie or just real life, but the father came home and the son said, "Hi, Dad, I love you." And I was trying to tell this story at breakfast, and I'm sitting there in front of my buddy that I play hockey with, and I'm like, whoa, and I couldn't get through it. And you always get this face. Nobody knows how to react. Like, what, you gonna give me a hug, right? No, that's I just
so that bit in Forrest Gump, and then the other bit is when it just cuts to him saying, "You died on a Thursday." And he just talks, and he's talking to his mum, and you know, that just, you know, long before my mum passed. I mean, it's just that. And again, that's such a dopey film. You know, most people look at that and go, "What bloody hell?" And yet, I think that film is absolutely beautiful. At times, obviously, very funny at other times, but I think at times, it reaches the profound. It's just so well done. And for a Robert Zemeckis movie, you know, a blockbuster in all but name, there are some bits in that are absolutely, you know, transcendent. And such a dopey movie.
If I had, I got one.
Old Yeller.
Close. 8 Below.
Lassie Come Home. What's that?
8 Below.
8 Below.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
It was I believe it's Disney, and it's what's his
Huskies?
name? Yep.
Yeah.
Fast and the Furious. Remember
Paul Walker?
Paul Walker, and he goes down to Antarctica, and they have to abandon the Huskies just because they got to get out of there. And then the story of the Huskies, how they survive the pack. Now these are trained dogs; they're not wild animals, and they survive. You know, it's. We went to see that one with my sister and my brother-in-law, and we were just like, "Oh yeah, this will be good." And we're like, you could literally hear people in the theater like, because it's just these aren't people now, right? And it's just you're just like, oh my god, and what was saw this one, John, with Karen and Wayne years ago. It was what's it, Michael Keaton, My Life? Yeah. The one where he's dying, but he wants to have a kid. And he's in the hospital. That's what it is. He's in the hospital. And I was there. We're there with Karen and Wayne, and we thought it looked funny because all the trailers for this movie, it's the comedy. It's Michael Keaton. He was a comedian at the time, right? And you're like, oh, we got to see this. And we're like, all right. And we're like going out, the four of us, a dinner, date, and a comedy, blah, 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 blah. All right. And the four of us walk out of there, and they were yelling at me. Because you get to that scene, and it's a comedy. Have you ever seen this one, Steve?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
So, John, you've seen it, right?
Yeah, I've seen it.
So it is a comedy all the way leading up to it because he knows he's dying. He might, he's not going to make it. And he keeps praying to God in the movie. He's like, just let me see him be born. But then he's doing all this stuff. He's videotaping himself, and he's like, he's like, this is son. They find out what it is. So he knows he's having a son in case he dies before he's born. He's like, you shave this way. And he's like, always this way, sometimes this way, never this way. Right. And you laugh because it's like he's making a joke, but this is serious stuff. So you're going through it very light and you're like, all right, yeah. Then you have the birth, and it's like the mom's giving birth and he's there and blah, blah, blah. And the baby's born, and there's comedy ensues there with they work it in. And then all of a sudden he looks up and goes, thank you. And you're like, blah, you're just like, from then on in, you're like, oh my God, you're just pouring because that's all he wanted to see. It's like, oh yeah. But those
power of cinema.
Yeah, exactly. See what
Have you
happens
guys-
when
have you
Steve
guys
can
seen-
stay up late?
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, don't be sorry.
Have you seen Afterlife? The Ricky Gervais Netflix
Yes, that
series?
was one
Yes.
also that was pretty moving. Yeah.
Yeah.
The last episode of that in particular, I mean, there's lots
Yeah.
of it throughout. I mean, obviously,
Right.
plus serious comedy as well. Is it serious
Yeah.
comedy? You know what I mean?
Right.
Real comedy, true comedy. But the last episode of that had when I saw that was sobbing, and
Yeah.
that was the little boy in the children's hospital saying to him,
Right.
"Do you believe in heaven? You know, what is it going to look like?" It's just, oh, Christ.
Oh,
And that was just, I mean, I was sobbing loudly in that, you know,
Right.
that's one where I had to catch my breath, you know, it was literally just,
Yeah.
and that just, you know, absolutely.
So just-
anyway, we got
just
off
to
that. I
know
don't
my
how we got onto
reaction,
it.
you guys had listed movies. I listed movies and one of your tweets. So let's know. Now you know where I stand.
I mean, I'm sure my Twitter feed has reduced many people to tears, but generally boredom, I'm sure.
I wish I could turn it off. I don't know how. Oh well.
No, it makes you.
Exactly. And that's what I said to John. I was like, leading up to my daughter's wedding, I was like, I wanted to be the man's man. And my wife happens to be on this medication for something that it literally shuts off her emotions. So she's like a rock. Right. And I'm like, maybe I could take that or something on that day. And then I wouldn't be, but that's not fair to my daughter. You know, like my daughter
No,
wouldn't
it's
know me.
you.
She'd be like, why
It
aren't you
makes you
upset?
you.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, it's just, you know.
Anyways, all right. Let's get to my next one here. Wednesday on Netflix, Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos. As I said before, this, John, you've seen this. It is absolutely, story-wise, is absolutely fantastic. I will say this: it was fairly predictable, right? Like I kind, but then they you might
There's
think
some things in it.
yeah, there's some I don't want to say twists, but you might think you know how it's going to end, and then when it kind of goes in that direction, you're like, I knew it, and then you're like, oh wait, I didn't know that was coming.
Right.
So there's fun stuff like that. But as far as home theater wise, highly recommend it. Lots of nice bass in this. That this is one of those where I wish we could get a 4K physical release of this to get that more dynamic, because it is fairly dynamic even on Netflix. But the sound is, there's some lots of good ambient sounds around. I almost wanted to say there were bats, but there were things flying around. You heard sounds all around you. Driving in cars, you'd hear different sounds going by and around. Tons and tons of great surround sound in this. But where I think this really shines is the picture, because the way they shot this, and it goes back to, like I was talking about the Batman, is a lot of this is shot in that like murky or atmospheric haze. Light coming in the windows, super important, especially in their dorm room, right, John? And it's like, you have Wednesday, who's liking to wear just black and white. That's all she is. But her roommate is more colorful. And there's a window, and one side stained glass, and the other side's just black and white. And that, watch the background scenes on that. The HDR for this, the vibrancy that you get in, look on the floor. There's so much to see in this show. And then when I say like that atmospheric depth that you get because of light coming through windows and you see the beams of light, but then you get Wednesday Addams, who has that paler complexion. She has the jet black hair. There's no atmosphere between you and the camera, her and the camera. And it is blacker than black. There were times you're watching this, and this is shot in like 178 or whatever. So you get a little black bar at the top and the bottom. And this is what's so much fun, is like when you're watching, this is how much black, like anything, your perception of things, you can't have dark without light. And her hair actually looks darker than the black lines, because those black lines are up against the black velvet or the black of the background of your room or whatever. But her hair's background, it's the way it's contrasted against the background, which is now, like I said, that atmospheric haze. So you're seeing the light come. So the background isn't as black as her hair is. so it makes her hair appear even darker. It's an amazing shot, and they did that in the Batman as well. That's how, you know, you had that haze, and then he'd come into the scene, and then you'd see the different shades of his, you know, costume or whatever. But this here with her jet black hair, her eyes, there were times I was looking at people's eyes, some of these characters, because they're all like different beings, but you wonder, like, some of them have the blue eyes, like all blue, like really blue, high contrast, no, like very bright blue, or light blue, I should say. But then there were other people, I was like, do they even have, like Morticia, that at one point I thought maybe she has no irises. Like, I'm looking at her eye and I'm like, I'm trying to tell. I was like, but the clarity's there, but it's like, oh, it just looks so good. There's so much detail.
I think I said that this was reference quality.
Yes.
From start to finish when I watched it. And I still think it was. But what always struck me was the grades of black in her school jacket.
Yes.
Like, you know, because again, in a lesser stream or a lesser show, it's just black. It's just a solid black jacket.
Right.
But this is stripes, and there's great, you know, different gradations of black.
Yeah.
And each one was distinct, and you were able to see it. And I thought they did a fantastic job with that.
Right.
So
this is one that it's a shame we don't get the physical release on it, because, and like you said, with her jacket, it reminds me of the Batman. And when you see him go into that first crime scene and you realize his like chest plate and all that, it's not black. It's actually like a dark charcoal gray. And then you see the different tones that he has. It's very similar to like what John said about her jacket. It's like, I mean, it's striped because that's the school uniform that they gave her this one. Everybody else's is black and blue, not a spoiler, but she gets the black and the charcoal. But then it's the texture that you could see off of different shots, how close ups they get to her. You could see textures in it, the different shades. There's so much. And that's why, like I said, when I started it up this morning from the final episode, I'm like, this isn't looking as good. I'm like, what the heck? And because, like John said, it is referenced from beginning to end for picture for me. And I mean, the sound's fantastic too, but it's almost like you don't want to take your eyes off the screen. You can't, like, I couldn't sit and eat and watch this because, like, you know, if you're eating dinner and you're watching a movie that has subtitles, you lose, like, all of a sudden they're talking, but you've been doing this and you're like, what did they say? Well, this is like that, only you know what's going on. You can hear it, but you do not want to miss anything on that screen because there's so much. There's so much to take in. It's so good. Do you have it over there, Steve? You have it on Netflix.
Yeah, it's been advertised on Netflix. Yeah, it's not. I was never an Addams Family.
I wasn't either.
John
and I
wasn't either. So I don't. It's not quite reached to me, if you know what I mean. I mean, your comments, both of you, are actually making me now want to see it. Whereas previously, it didn't really mean much to me at all, to be honest.
That's a great point.
Okay.
It's a great point because I wasn't either. John was a little bit more than I was, but even John was like, I wasn't really Addams Family.
No, because remember, I was the Munsters guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't really do the Addams Family.
And I didn't either. And this has not, I mean, you don't have to have any working knowledge other than you know that they existed. They introduce all the characters, and it actually, by the end of this, it made me an Addams Family fan.
Well, and again, I think I said this when I said it's not an Addams Family show.
No, it's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday. Yeah,
right.
Like they're very much ancillary characters. It is all about her.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
And
it's more young mystery. You know, it's more like the Hardy Boys
Drew.
Or Nancy Drew than it is, you know.
Yeah, it really is. It's like that's all it is. It's a detective show that is, you know, I wouldn't say sci-fi,
in that world,
like a
but
horror
it's in that world.
Yeah,
but it's a different
it's
type of show.
Fun, supernatural, of course, supernatural detective show, I should say.
Yeah.
And it is
It
is
so
good.
I
think you'd like this. Steve, I honestly think you'd like the story because in anybody, you don't have to be an Addams Family fan, but even just home theater wise, people listening to this, it's great. It's must watch just for that aspect. But then the story's pretty good too. It's really good. So, and like I said,
I was actually glad to see it on your list. I was happy that you watched it.
Yeah.
Because I was feeling like I was the only one,
Nope.
and you guys were missing out on something that was really good.
I listened to you, John. I had it, and I'm trying to. Wait till you see next week's list.
Okay.
I hope so. What do we got next? Steve's got one last one, and then we have our last one.
Yeah, let me just
Go ahead.
very quickly-ish do the menu. Now, have either of you seen this? It's on Disney
No,
Plus.
no, but again, is definitely on my short list.
This is a film that was recommended to me by a friend of mine who is a film fan. He's not a home theater fan, but he's a film fan. And if he is one of the masses that just wants to be able to see the film, doesn't really care how he sees it or what it looks like. And he said to me, it's really good. And I just go, okay, fine. And, I didn't really think about it. And the other day, for some reason, I put it on and thought, I'll give it a go. I absolutely loved this. And I thought it was great. It is a very, very off-the-wall movie. Very quickly, just the story is a number of people are invited to an island. Now, this sounds like Glass Onion. I get that. They're invited to an island by a reclusive chef to have a foodie experience. And the chef is played by Ralph Fiennes. One of the people that goes to the island is Anya Taylor-Joy, who of course is just in everything good at the moment, from The Northman to Last Night in Soho, and The Witch and everything else.
Gotta get her and Tom Hanks together.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she's so good. She is so good.
She is. Excellent.
And so they get there, and then there is a 45 minutes of passive aggressive awesomeness that I don't want to spoil in any way, shape, or it is deliciously good. And if you'll forgive the expression, right?
Look at
you. It is fantastically passive aggressive, and you've got these diners in this dining room, and every one of them is just getting it at each other in their little groups, and it's brilliant. And it's very nicely taking the mickey, poking fun at foodies. Those that see beauty in a plate of chips. Fries. Yeah, and it's very much taking the mickey out of those people, and of course I quite like that because I don't have the relationship with food that they do. To me, it's something you stick down your neck and get on with your day, whereas to these people, it's a lifestyle. It's a reason to live, and so this movie beautifully punches that and has fun with that. And then it takes a turn. The chef is played by Ralph Fiennes, and things change. And it's not what they thought it was, and it begins to unravel. And I'm not saying any more than that. It's a horror, comedy, thriller, a mixture of different things. But what it is absolutely unmissable. And you got to do yourselves a favor. I know, again, put it on the ever expanding list, but it's really well worth seeing. It's an hour and 45 minutes. It's not like it's another 3-hour epic. You can blast through it quite quickly. You'll have a lot of fun with it. It's very, very funny at times, very funny. And yeah, it is well worth seeing. I'm amazed, frankly, that it has just been seemingly dumped on Disney Plus. How this doesn't get a theatrical release and a big wide home video release, I do not know, because this is something special. And
what do we have it on? Hulu over here, John? I don't think it's on Disney.
It's HBO Max.
HBO Max.
HBO Max.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah.
definitely,
you don't have that
definitely seek it out and give it a watch. We've got it in 4K and Atmos and Disney Plus. Yeah. It honestly, it's lean and mean, but it's very funny. And it's just, and again, the setup sounds like Glass Onion. It's not. And it really is fun. And once you see it, you'll be recommending it to everybody else as well, because it's great fun, So I had a great time with it. I mean, audio and video is really good. The audio, it's not a home cinema film, really. Okay. There are some explosions and some bits and pieces, but yeah, quite well. Well, is it in 4K?
Yep, 4K and Atmos. Nice.
Yep. Oh wow. Okay. Well, that is well worth picking up. I mean, I don't know whether I think it's worth the investment. As long as it's not like $45 or whatever it is.
$19.99.
No, there you go. So well worth seeing. And it's fun. It is a really special movie. A little diamond in the rough, actually. I think it's a first time filmmaker, actually.
Oh wow.
But an all-star cast. I mean, you've got John Leguizamo's in it, Ralph Fiennes, Anya Taylor-Joy, Nicholas Hoult. And a number of character actors, but it is fun, and that is what I will say. And so worth checking out, guys. 1-2 watch with the other halves, because I think they'll think it's fun because there are a lot of couples in this, and as I say, the passive aggressiveness between them is hilarious. And I can imagine, I saw it on my own, but I can imagine watching it with couples and them go, "Oh, well, you do that. Oh, you say that. That's what you know." And because it's that kind of film, it's very, very funny, and yet there's darker stuff going on, but it's not too dark. So it is well worth seeing. So I highly recommend. I loved that much more than I was expecting. So give that a go, guys, if you get a chance.
Nice. Yeah. I just saw just dropped today Megan on in 4K.
Oh,
Dolby
that's on
Atmos
Kaleidoscape already.
on Kaleidoscape. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
$30.
Yeah. It's a horror film. I don't find the scary doll type of horror very frightening. I think it's kind of silly. Annabelle was kind of silly. The Chucky films never interested me at all. Child's Play.
I've heard good things about it though. I've heard good things.
Well, it did much better than they predicted.
But I wonder if it's counter programming to Avatar.
It could be.
It's like, well, we don't want to see the blue cats, right? Let's go and watch a killer doll.
Right.
It's an obvious leap.
Yeah. Good point.
So I don't know. I'm not massively
I just
excited
noticed it
about
dropped today, which is because it's still in theaters.
I wouldn't spend $30 on it.
No. But that's what happened with Jurassic World Dominion too. It didn't do as well in the theaters as they wanted, and it dropped digitally.
But see,
quick.
this is the opposite. This is doing much better than they predicted. So it's funny that they dropped it already on Kaleidoscape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe it's just the name Meghan. Perhaps we're back to Prince Harry again.
Maybe. Yeah.
My daughter's name. Hers is with an H though. Meg Hay.
Oh yeah. Not Markle.
No. All right, let's get to the last of the day. I almost said the title. We all have it as we all watched it this week. Dare we name the show The Last of Us Part 2?
Part 2.
Part 2.
This here is. I'll go first.
Fully ado.
After, as I call it, binge watching Wednesday, this show is like the exact opposite. Wednesday is just so fun and uplifting, and it's just great. And then The Last of Us is great, but it's this week's episode. Holy, so tense. And I can't even. People have been talking about how tense this is that don't have great home theaters. Right. What we experienced in our theaters is just the bass, the rumbles, I thought it was.
To me, and it's the ambient sound. It's one thing that horror movies all have in spades, even though I don't always enjoy them, is the ambient sound. There's always something creaking in the back or sneaking up on you or jumping at you from the side, and I think they do a great job with the sound.
So before Steve goes here, I want to comment because I would listen to #Dork podcast, and Rich, the host of the show, Rich Keefe, he has the SVS surround sound. He has the whole thing. So he calls it his Dragon's Lair, which is the coolest name. So Ryan is the video game guy. He's the co-host, and he has a Ryan Video Game Minute and all that. And in the middle of their conversation, their whole show this week was about episode 2. In the middle of their conversation, Ryan goes, "Yeah, you guys are all missing out on like the surround sound that you get because when you're playing the video games, the clickers that they call, that's what they call them, clickers, right?"
Yes.
Yeah. So the clickers, he goes, you hear them at the back of the room. They're all around you. And I was sitting there. Now I'm listening, and I know Rich has his nice theater. And Rich goes, "Oh no. In the Dragon's Lair, they were going off in the back." He goes, "I got the kick-ass surround sound." He goes, "You watching?" And Ryan's like, "Really?" And I was like, yeah, I had a tweet about it. I was like, that's it. Tell them. Because people think you need headphones for this. Nuh-uh. Oh, it's great. And that stuff is going on. Like John said, it's fantastic. Okay, Steve, bring us down. Because I can tell you look disappointed.
Well, let's. Now I can't review the audio or the video because I've seen it 1080p on a 2-channel stereo TV. So I mean, it's just not available properly for me to view, and I'll get the disc when it comes out. I'm developing a bit of a problem with it
Uh-oh.
In as much as, well, the problem is, of course, of the three of us, I'm the one that's completed the game twice.
Right.
And including very recently, only literally just before Christmas. Now, my problem that is developing is they are literally retelling the game beat for beat for beat. Right. And the bit in, again,
for one, with one exception from what I understand. The opening scenes.
Yeah, exactly that. So the bit in Indonesia, the initial bit is new. Okay,
yeah.
but inconsequential because it's not going to carry on. I think that bit's done. I think so. Whatever that was, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe that's now gone.
Yeah, but they might be going a different direction because listening to hashtag Dork, Ryan saying they're actually the opposite of you. They like the way it's going beat for beat, but they actually think that they're going to actually those opening scenes are going to play out in something that people that have played the game might be like, oh, this is new. Right.
Yeah.
So
well,
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I hope they do, because if they don't, and the impression I got was that Indonesia bit's done now. That's finished. The way that ends.
Well, yeah.
It seemed like a little mini film, a short film.
Well, it was the opening. I mean, it's the start of the whole thing. Right. So of course that's done. That's that's the beginning. Just like the season one.
Suggesting there's
one,
no other.
One.
Yeah. So unfortunately, it is very, very familiar. So there isn't any tension for me. There is no will they, won't they? Because you know exactly, and I mean that in every way, exactly. Not only what's going to happen, but how it's going to happen. So and it is literally like. And as I was watching this episode, I said it to the person I was watching it with, and I said, "Do you know what? I think I'd rather be playing the game." Because if this is what's happening here, I can play exactly that level and I can do something else. You know, I can interact with this in a different way.
Right.
And whilst now, admittedly, the dialogue is good. I like how Ellie and Joel, the way they communicate is exactly the way they communicate in the game. Ellie is a smart ass in the game, and they're all, and until they develop this bond, which does develop, they are very catty with one another, and she is very funny, and she's very foul-mouthed, and that's exactly what she's like in the game. That dialogue isn't quite lifted from the game, but it's not far off. Right, so that's nice, and I like that, and that was fun, and you can see the relationship building. But the character beats are literally identical to the game. There is no there's no tension. There is no will they, won't they. There is no could this happen, because it is literally, I know exactly. And again, not only do I know who's not going to make it, I know how they're not going to make it and why they're not going to make it. And that is having an impact, because I can't enjoy the video with the audio because I'm not watching it that way.
Right.
So all I've got is a story that I've not only seen before, but I know this sounds pretentious, but I've lived it before twice.
Right.
Including recently. And interestingly, tonight when I got home from work, I went into the cinema room and I played a spin-off level from the first game on the PS5. It's got the DLC, the add-on content. Right. And I was playing that with clickers, and they were going right around the room. Because I've got obviously a decent surround as well, and they do. You know, it's great, and you can make the move and everything else. And I was having more fun doing that than I did watching episode 2, and that is a potential big problem, which I hope they're going to address. Otherwise, this is going to get boring quite quick. Right. Because even though there's a lot of good stuff to come for those that don't know it, if it's just a retread of the game that I've played, I'm gonna check out fairly quickly, and then end up just having to wait for the disc and just hope that the home cinema experience transcends the familiarity of the story.
I would hope, knowing the popularity of the game, I would hope knowing the popularity of the game, I would hope that episode 3 and 4 are going to give you evidence of you don't know everything, because otherwise, to your point, how many people would be like, what am I doing here? Right?
Well, I don't know, because the problem is, what do you always hear? Every time something gets adapted from something else, the thing you always hear is, well, that's not the way it happened, and that's not what's supposed to happen. So now that they're actually doing it exactly the way it happened, people don't, well, not everybody, but certain individuals don't find anything new there.
Yeah,
and
like
that's why they say
between us.
Right, but that's why they're always saying that's why things diverge from the source material, is because otherwise you've already seen it all. Like if Game of Thrones was exactly the books, why am I watching this show?
Right.
I read The Walking Dead and I watched The Walking Dead. If they were the same story, why do both? So but the problem is what what you're recounting, Steve, is what the main criticism always is when things get adapted. So
Right.
I think
Well,
maybe they are doing it exactly beat for beat, and you might not enjoy it. I don't know.
I mean, it's a very, very difficult line to tread, isn't it? And I'm not criticizing the showmakers because it's not. Christ, I couldn't do it. You know what I mean? They are very talented indeed. And and the panel, the loads of the cinematography are directly lifted from the game again. I mean, even the way in which the buildings lean and the shots through the cars.
The shots of Boston
just
are
done from the game.
fantastic.
I mean, interestingly,
I'm wondering
it
how
was
they did that, because there's a scene in this week's where they're and I know they're probably going to be leaving Boston shortly, but they're walking across a bridge, right? And the bridge, if you're looking at it, it turns to the left. Okay. So, and it's a big like highway bridge. I go over that bridge every time we go into Fenway Park. I use that bridge to leave, right? I know exactly what that bridge is. And I'm like, how the hell? It's all got to be CGI, right? Like they just take a shot of it and then they CGI all of the, fungus all over everything. And you're just like, and then the background, you're like, that's what it looks like, but it's just like off, right? So it's like they don't have to nail it perfectly because it's been destroyed, but it's so because the way the pitch of the bridge is and everything, it's like I go down that and you're like, yahoo wee, and it's like it leads you onto the expressway, but it's like it looks so good.
But all of that again is directly in the game. I mean, much of that they may well have taken the files from the game and handed that out to an effects house and say, right, you just need to up-res that to.
Well, aren't the producers of this the same producers of the game? It's like the guy that directed.
Neil Druckmann is the exec producer and the showrunner, but he directed episode 2, and he was the game director. I mean, he's the guy that is responsible for it. Yeah, he did, and so But as I said, I'm hoping that it's a very difficult line to tread, and as you say, John, you're absolutely right. And again, I had this conversation with someone yesterday morning. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
That's what John and I say all the time when we have this conversation.
People like me will say, well, I've played this, I've seen this, I've done this, I've lived this, and it was better when it was my adventure rather than watch someone else play it, which is kind of how it is. Right. Or you go, well, let's make Ellie a man and we'll make Joel a woman, and we'll change the ethnicity of it, and we'll take it from Boston to London, and we'll do something different.
And everybody
then people like me will say, yeah, but that's not the game.
Right.
So it's a really difficult line to tread, but the problem is, where it's been as popular as it has been, you've got to make it worthwhile. You can't sensibly say, well, sod you if you played the game, you're going to just have to deal with it, and if you like it, you do, and if you don't, you don't get lost. We're making this for those that have never played the game, because it's too expensive for that. So it's costing a lot of money. So it's an interesting dilemma, isn't it? To kind of how you do it.
Honestly, you could take it back to Halo, which just happened this year as well, right? Yeah. Because they went the other way, right? And went very far away from the game and the source material, and presumably most people didn't like it.
They didn't like
it. People that played the game didn't like it.
Right.
I liked it because I didn't play the game.
Right, but
I like this show because I didn't play the game.
Right. But what was funny about that, and is ironic, is like the game of Halo was a first-person shooter. So you were the character, right? Right. You were Master Sergeant. Of course, Master Sergeant. Master Chief, whatever. Yeah. Master Chief. So you're this character that in the game you're playing never speaks because he's you, right? So then they cast an actor to play Master Chief, and everybody's in an uproar that they gave him lines.
Like, tell me off.
And a face. Right.
Right. Yes, it's like, exactly. It's like, oh my God, what are they doing? Well, they expanded on that world. That's not right. And now we are with this one. And you're like, you're not expanding on the world. And they actually are. The opening scenes are expanding. That's why I'm hopeful.
But like you say, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
And John and I have been talking about that for longer than we've been podcasting, because we laugh about it. Like, because what I think is funny is people always say it's the same people. Well, no, it's not. You're just hearing different people mention different things. Like, I'm not saying you're necessarily the person that does now, like, it's when you're later on be like, why are they making it so different? I don't know if you've ever said that, but yeah, it's I'm enjoying it. And you're right, you're missing out a lot on the home theater experience because I think that would drag you right into it because the picture on this, not as good, Wednesday's reference level, so it's not as good as that, but it is really good 4K. I think the physical release on this is going to be fantastic. The dynamics of the sound in this are going to be absolutely fantastic physically because they already are. I mean, there's a lot of nice bass.
This is very quiet place, right? Like these creatures all seem to be based. They're sound based, right? They don't see, if I understand.
The clickers do,
right. So sound is so important. It's like see also, right? Like anytime sound is at the forefront of what you're watching, then the mix is, it has to play out and be dynamic.
But then again, they have a problem because they've used the same audio clicks and everything else from the game as well. So if you're playing the game in a cinema, which I do, then you've heard it all. That. Yeah. You've had it. You've had them come right to your ear. You've had to run away from these things as they're chasing you, and you can feel them behind you. These clicks that when they scream and they howl, they really do go for it, and you've got to try and run away from them and shoot them as you're going. And so that has already happened. Again, I've lived this. It's now the difference between playing the game yourself and watching someone else play the game at the moment.
Well, here's a funny one.
And it's never much fun.
I'm watching my son play that. He's never played the game. So he just got it. And he's playing it. And I watched him play. He's actually, I don't know if he found it. I haven't talked to him about it, but he was hoping that online there's chapters of the game. So so what he wants to do
where
is
you are in the show.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Play the game, then go watch that episode, play the game, then go. Well, he's not sure if anybody's done it yet or not.
It's split into seasons. So it starts. So it's basically winter, winter, spring.
No.
Summer,
but
autumn.
When you get to a certain part of the game, stop because that's the end of episode 1. You see what I'm saying? Like he's trying.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, you can do that.
And I'm sure somebody's going to document that. But that's what he wanted to do.
Yeah, you can.
But when he started the game, he called me down, he texted me, I'm upstairs. He's like, I'm starting if you want to come watch it. And I, to your point, Steve, it's beat for beat. I was sitting there. Now, he likes to sit in the front row and play the video game. So I'm sitting in the back and I'm telling him, I'm like, yep, I know what's going to happen here. I know all these things. So it was a lot of fun. And then when we got to the end of the episode, I was like, that's the end of the episode. And so he stopped. And he wants to look that up and then now go watch the episode and play it.
What's he playing it on? Is it the PS4 or the 5?
4.
Problem is, I don't think that can be done until all the episodes have aired.
Well, he's always behind anyways. He hadn't seen one.
He'd have to wait until somebody has actually seen them all so they could document the timestamps in the game.
Yeah. But you literally can at the moment. I mean, the what happens at the end of episode 2 is exactly what happens in the game. You could stop the game there and go, right, okay.
Is it the same demise?
Yes.
Exactly? That was insane. And I can't imagine it looked as good on the game. There's no way. Because we saw it in 4K.
They got pretty good graphics, though.
Yeah, but this
if you look at the PS5, the PS5 remastered version is very good. Again, I went back and played it earlier, and it's identical. And when I say it's beat for beat,
I'm talking about
not just the story,
the loving kiss.
That wasn't. No, sorry, that bit was not.
That's what I'm talking about. That was
but it's 2 seconds in a 50-minute episode of the
but in 4K in that detail, John, that was
it's pretty gruesome. But again, you've seen that before elsewhere. But I think it. But when I say it's similar to the game, I mean even down to where Joel and Ellie are crouching behind those islands in the middle of the room, and the clickers around them. I mean, that's exactly what they do. And it's even to the framing of it. It's not just they're in a room trying to hide from these clickers. They are behind an island that's exactly the same as the one in the game that is framed the same way.
Yeah,
same music,
it's just
same
like
everything.
It's almost like that Psycho remake. The Gus Van Sant Psycho remake. The shot for shot remake of Psycho, and you're like, well, one, why bother? and two, because the first one was so good. And then you're like, and that's the sort of vibe I'm getting from this. And as much as I don't want to, and as I said, it was fine in episode 1. I thought, okay, episode 2, Indonesia. And I said to the person I was watching it with, oh, okay, this is different. They never went to Indonesia in the game. That's okay, yay. But then that ended, and then it was just the main story. Just here we are again. It's a bit like DLC. Exactly. You get this little bit of extra stuff that you haven't seen, and then back to the main story, and it's beat for beat for beat for beat for beat. The deaths are the deaths. The number, even the number of the bad guys are bang on. How they move, the sound, the way they're first presented, it's all exactly like the game. And the game is extremely cinematic. But then that's a problem then if you're then trying to adapt it, because you shouldn't then emulate it beat for beat, but they are. Right. And I hope they won't. I've still got faith, but if 3 is like 1 and 2, then
now you got a reason
to see.
Now I got a reason to tune in next week. I can't wait to see what you think. Sheesh. I'm like, should I watch his Twitter feed? Should I not?
Oh, I'm not gonna spoil it or do anything on there that's gonna say anything bad about it. I'm not gonna do that, 21. And the good news is that Patrick Stewart's not in this one, so there's nothing to spoil about that. At least not so far. So that's good news.
I love that we can't. I mean, I know you so well now, Steve. As John and I are talking about it, I'm just watching your film. I'm like, we can't play poker because you'll read me, I'll read you, because you're just sitting there going, oh. Man, I'm going to disappoint these guys.
Well, I know. Yeah, I hate to be the party pooper, but it is just beginning to become.
No, it's great to have. I mean, hey, that's why there's 3 of us. We have, different opinions on different things, and that's the point. So, and what's funny is, like I said, #dork guys feel exactly like you. They just like it that way. They're enjoying,
which is cool,
right?
Yeah.
And that's what's fun. That's what I think is fun. It's like, I mean, what the hell? It doesn't have to appeal to everybody, but I'd appreciate it if you kept watching it just for the show, so we can. Dig on it.
I'm not out of it yet.
We're like,
I can tell you what will happen next week if you like.
We need the next 5 show titles.
I feel like the guy, right? I feel like the guy that had read all of the Game of Thrones books before it happened, and then go, right, do you want to know what happens next week?
Yeah,
right.
well, what's funny, it's funny you say that. That's what the #dork guys said. They're like, because they've played the games, they've finished both seasons, just like you, right? And it's funny, you guys said the exact same thing. They're like, we're the Game of Thrones people. Here we are. We're those annoying people that were like, I know what's going to happen next. Or this isn't
the keys
right.
to the kingdom.
Yeah. It's what's better is when the season finally does what you want. I can't wait for John and I to look at you and go, this is what you wanted, Steve. Now you don't like it. You're like, this isn't how the game went.
I reserve the right to do that. Yeah,
exactly. You're like, all right, they followed it letter for letter. You weren't happy. Now you're not happy with this. Steve, what do you want, buddy? The bus bench is getting shorter over here.
I'm a defense lawyer. I am a professional, awkward bastard.
I reserve the right to change my mind.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So maybe that's what the #dork guys are doing. They're reserving, like, when it does change, like, see, we liked it the other way. We don't like it anymore. So, but all right. Well, that was quite the show, boys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got
it's 1:05 in the morning here.
I need to wrap this up.
Holy God. Is it really?
Yeah.
What the hell? It's 8 o'clock here, 1 o'clock in the morning there.
Yeah, but it's okay. I'm off tomorrow. I'm teaching tomorrow afternoon, so I can have a lie-in the morning.
Approaching
and then I'm going to watch it in Bruges.
I think we're approaching the time limit on how much I can upload.
Yeah.
So
we
we got like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Okay.
Let's wrap
it
up.
Before we go, just say to Omar, because he's probably traveling down to the Keys, just tell him to watch out for that alligator. Just watch out, Omar. Watch out.
The one alligator.
That one there. Yeah, watch out for
one alligator.
Okay.
Watch out.
Right, good news.
All right. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Very active chat again this week. Thanks to everybody that I was trying to keep up with them. Thanks to everybody for tuning in this week. All Patreon supporters, thank you. We had a new one. What is it? AA? What was his name?
AA. Yep.
AA.
Mr. AA.
Mr. AA. Okay. All right. Thank you to everybody. We'll be back next week, and we can't wait to see what Steve thinks of. It might be the last of us.
Don't blame me.
Who knows? All right, boys. Have a great week, John. What are they gonna say?
Go push play.
There we go. Steve?
Yeah. It's too late.
Yep.
What he said.
I love it. Hey, Fred. This has been a Hey Fred production with theme music by Jeff Bernhardt and Throne Vault Productions.